Why do 90% of hackers swear by CounterSurveil? Let's dive in and find out. In the labyrinthine world of cyberspace, every click leaves a trace. But with CounterSurveil, you become the unseen. Our podcast takes you deep into the heart of hacking, where firewalls crumble and secrets unravel. From white hat heroes to shadowy code warriors, we cover the spectrum. Join us on Iron Geek, your portal to mastering the art of stealth and strategy. Discover the tools, the tricks, and the tales that define the modern hacker. Tune in and transform from a curious novice into a digital legend. This is CounterSurveil. Unmask the unknown.
Tune into the sound waves, secrets of the dark maze, dark codes in the nighttime, information aligned. We're free in the spotlight, chatting through the late night. Smart contracts are lying, auditing, they're defying. CounterSurveil in my ear, security we engineer. Learn the truth, don't disappear. CounterSurveil, we're right here. Crypto dreams and data streams. Listen close, it's closer than it seems. Fix the flaws, see through the smog. CounterSurveil, join the blog.
Hello and welcome to the CounterSurveil podcast. I am joined here today with our co-host Sledge, as well as CrowdStrong, our also kind of co-host Altkey.
Wait, kinda? No, I'm a co-host. You stop that.
Yeah, you've been promoted. And WebDev, Altkey. And maybe somebody else later on if they pop in. So this week we're going to be shooting the shit. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the infosec stuff that's happened this week as well as this year. And we're all going to try not to get too drunk on the cast where we don't make any sense. So Sledge, why don't you give us a little intro of what you would like to talk about this week? You mentioned it in our little private chat.
So I was thinking maybe we can go around and talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the exciting, the boring things that went on this year. Kind of like go in a circle, and if anybody's listening and wants to chime in, and we could probably have you on and just kind of chit chat and see where it goes from there.
Sounds good to me. And if anybody who is in the YouTube or the other places this is being streamed would like to hop in, feel free to use the chat and we will see it and we can collaborate on getting you in here if you want to hop in. So first off, let's talk about this hack that happened recently within the telecom infrastructure, to put it lightly. What do you guys know about it? Have you? Oh, Cameron, dude, Cameron is badass. I miss Cameron. Cameron, I'll reach out to you on the Twitters and get you in here. Hold on.
And are you talking about the one? I believe it was from China.
Yeah, it's always from China, isn't it? Even when it's not.
Oh, where's my attribution dice?
You got
0 days since it was China.
I'm working on it.
Also,
Yeah, I'm gonna get,
CrowdStrong, when did
Cameron
you jump
here.
in?
About halfway through the intro music.
Okay, because like on my screen you were taking up Dataplex's spot, and I'm like, wait, since when's he CrowdStrong?
We gang. Good to see you too.
Cameron, how do I join? It would help if I had Cameron's current handle.
Didn't we have a phone call line that was built for this?
We have not implemented it just yet.
We don't have that yet.
That would have been perfect for tonight if we were doing that.
Like a call-in live show, that'd be freaking sweet to use that for.
Yeah,
the first one of those I ever did was a couple of friends of mine out of, I guess at the time it was, I think they were in Virginia at the time. Horseshoes and hand grenades. Shout out to some of my old geek buddies.
Yeah, I like those guys.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm gonna probably regret doing this. I'm gonna post the StreamYard link right.
That's a horrible idea.
That's a shitty idea.
That's a horrible idea.
Yep.
So poorly.
Let's do it. It should be fun. So
do
Cameron,
Bitly and then delete the Bitly.
Chaos ensues.
Chaos should ensue. Here you
YOLO,
go.
fuck it.
Click that link and you can join.
about to throw it out
YOLO.
there. Anybody have ideas for good New Year's hacks?
You gave me one earlier.
Survive is the answer. That's the hack for the New Year's.
Survival of the fittest. That's the
Yeah,
best hack.
lately it's job hacks.
Mm-hmm.
Job
Oh.
hacks are fun. So I saw an AI
Yeah.
the other day specifically catered to help people cheat on job interviews. And I thought that
send
was
it
a pretty
over.
good use of AI. I mean, people are already using AI for that, so why not have an official AI that's specifically just for that? You share your screen during the interview, it gives you live feedback to the stuff that's up there, and oh man, badassery.
I saw one from Microsoft. I think it was. It'll listen to your microphone and the audio on your desktop and just give you feedback as you're talking. It was pretty neat. I've never used it on an interview, but it could be used for that.
Yeah, I was
Like
playing with
Microsoft
that the other
Therapy, or
day.
like
That's the Google Workspace with Gemini. And
Maybe
I was
that's
playing
what I'm
with it the
thinking
other
of.
day on the VM because I'm not giving Google access to my actual machine for shit. But other than the
This guy gets
Chrome and
it.
all the other hooks they've already got into it. But the whole like you can share your window thing is pretty cool, and have it give you feedback in real time, and having something like that baked into AI cheating for job interviews, I think is also fairly badass.
Yeah.
have y'all ever had
And
an interviewee actually use AI? Do y'all
Mhm.
do interviews?
I've done a few, and yes, I have. And the guy started going on about the fashion industry halfway through the interview. So no, it
Nice.
didn't end well for him.
Yeah,
The
I
last
gotta
time
read,
I
like,
interviewed
2.5
somebody,
page.
the last time I interviewed somebody, AI wasn't even really a thing.
Yeah, I also haven't run into me personally interviewing folks with AI. I've hammered folks out.
I have noticed a really cool, interesting thing on the job hunt this year was 2 companies asked me to sign NDAs and waivers and disclaimers promising that I would not use AI, this, that, and the other.
Same.
It was like, huh,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a thing now.
It's interesting. They're putting their money and resources into that, and then hedging on the potentially negative consequences of it. So
Right.
I've had a couple of interesting interviews this year. One was definitely, I could see ChatGPT in the reflection on the guy's glasses.
Nice.
He opened with like a 3-minute just power read, teleprompter
Fantastic.
style. Yeah.
Good.
Other guy had earbuds in and whatnot, and was listening to a person, and so we typed to him a message, was like, here, sort these things in order, and for a list that didn't need to be sorted.
Right. The
Ultimate trick question right there.
Yeah.
the thing about it is now is you have threat actors using AI to pass the faraway test. I can't remember the name of the group, but I was reading up on it the other day, and I think I talked about it a few weeks ago. I know the DPRK is doing it. That they're using they're either stealing credentials, information, or paying people off to use themselves, but they are using AI to fool contracting houses who don't do like very serious background checks to get legitimate jobs to shovel money back to, in this instance, North Korea. So like that's, I would argue, probably a very large reason why that's happening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also just the prospects of, if you're entering the job market and you don't have established network and experience, right? I had a conversation this week with somebody that writes and was posting on LinkedIn, and I thought, what a great way to absolutely, finish your industry for good, right? Is feed the machine like that. So, but on the flip side of that, yes, I think there's a fraud aspect where they're taking a couple paychecks. If they get hired somewhere, especially full time, it's going to be quite a few paychecks that they'll get before they end up getting kicked out, right? If you're using that for like legitimately a tool to get an interview, I find it. I would be wary that I didn't have the skills that provided me. Am I setting myself up for failure in a job?
Ooh, I mean, half of the job is learning on the job, right? Like, I would the first job I had in information security. I came from a ground level tech up to virtualization background, but I had no security experience. Just I had tools and gadgets and a Wi-Fi pineapple and a rubber ducky and all this other shit that I'd played with, but I didn't have any right being there. And you know what I did? I did it anyway, and it worked out fine. So like,
All right.
even without like AI wasn't a thing back then, not really at the time, but like it is, if you use the tools at your disposal to succeed in what you're doing and learning on the job. I think if you're not trying to put yourself someplace where you're not technically prepared to do the thing but are willing to learn, you're doing yourself a disservice anyway.
So hang on. Let me bridge what Dataplex just said and what CrowdStrong just said. Sometimes fake it till you make it work. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and another thing is I've gone into interviews that were like, okay, we're going to need you to program an assembly live in front of us. And then the job was, oh, I'm closing another phishing ticket. Oh, hey, look, another phishing ticket.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's a phishing ticket. Like the job versus the interview. Like the interview was 80, and then when you get the job, the difficulty drops down to 20 like it saw a state trooper.
I'm gonna challenge it.
Like it saw a state trooper. That's good. That
I would be concerned with people that end up in jobs that have maybe legal requirements to have skills. It's
sure,
and caught, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And there are certain.
But not
our
everyone's
industry's
going
so
for
new
government
that
jobs.
showing up with no experience in cybersecurity, there was no experience to be had, right? So
I mean, ultimately, the people that I train, and I do a lot of that in my day job, the people that I train, I tell them to forget everything they know anyway, because most of that shit was wrong to begin with.
yes,
Yeah.
that too.
I'd like
And
to,
it changes every damn day anyways.
Gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Cameron. Cameron used to be on the Iron Geek cast every now and then, and he also was incredibly helpful to me when I was going through my divorce and homelessness issues, and he was kind enough to share a incredibly large library of hacking literature and books with me that helped me get my first SOC analyst gig a few years back. So, Cameron, thank you for hopping in, dude. It's nice to see
What's
you
up,
again.
man?
What's
Nice
up,
to meet
guys?
ya.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, it's going. Happy New Year.
You too.
Merry late
I'm sick as fuck, guys. So I'm sorry.
Well, you're cool, but you're also sick as fuck. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate it. I'm hopping in. I'll try to contribute as much as I can, but I'm rather under the weather right now, and I might bounce out. So I'm just letting you know. Okay.
I hope you feel better, man. You got
got a recipe
that's
for you
going
if you'd
around?
like me to send it your way. Are you in one of the signal groups?
What?
Are you in one of the signal groups that we've got running?
I don't even know what the hell that is, man. I try to be as detached from infosec as possible.
Okay.
You're doing a bad job of it now.
Well, it's fair.
Uh-oh. I think I lost him.
Vic, if I send you something, can you send it to him?
But he was trying to be as
Ingested
detached
in
from
all the
infosec
ways.
as
No,
possible.
it's a recipe to get better.
I like
It's a-
recipes to get better.
It's my grandma's recipe that she used to make for us when we got sick.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh.
Let me send that to you.
So,
welcome back.
One of the topics that we wanted to talk about was once again the supposed breach into the telecom infrastructure by China. Now, there have been a lot of different there have been a lot of different sources stating different levels of access were achieved depending on who's reporting it.
Which telco was breached?
I believe it was Verizon and one other.
They were confirmed.
So they were confirmed, I believe, by the federal government. Actually,
There were 9 on the list total.
Right. So it was Salt Typhoon is the moniker they're going with for this hacking group. They're claiming it's one of the most severe telecom cyber attacks in U.S. history. Began in like spring and has been described by the Intelligence Committee from the Senate Chairman Mark Warner as the worst telecom hack in our nation's entire history. Hackers infiltrated this, including AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. They had access to customer call records, comms data, court-authorized wiretapping systems, and surveillance data that was only intended for law enforcement.
That sounds like AT&T.
Well, they've seen my porn.
It does seem that this specifically
Get good with
this access
with your history online.
Oops. Awkward.
according to cyberscoop.com, they claim that this access was used by China specifically to spy on President-elect Trump and J.D. Vance's cell phones, as well as other high-ranking officials in the State Department, as well as the FBI, NSA, and other. So it looks like they were intentionally targeting as well as ranking government officials. Yeah, man, that's not a good hack to have as a country in general. Let's
Well-
just
Do
say.
they know how
So-
long it's been breached?
Since spring, for some of
Oh,
them.
since spring. I wonder if that had anything to do with the rise in SimJack attacks.
Well, I was going to throw out there, I was going to correlate to other things that are going on, which is a mass rise in home router exploitation, like TP-Link. And
Yep.
you know, what's interesting about that is that we've got all these articles about TP-Link. If you actually go look at the stats, our US-based companies are doing significantly worse, right? So Cisco is up there, and some of the others with a lot more vulnerabilities discovered, and a lot of them are hitting the known exploited vulnerabilities. So I was thinking, why can't they monitor that traffic coming in? But I'm assuming a lot of that is actually coming from now internal, right? US sided sources.
Well, the thing is, this is the shitty part about it, and specifically with those devices, when they get pushed out, they're insecure from the get go. They're not developed with a SSDLC, a secure software development lifecycle, and because of that, it opens those devices up to be breached. And that there needs to be like multiple steps in place that gets rolled in to device rollout, and that prevents that sort of shit from happening.
That's
Is it-
accurate. It does seem
Yeah.
the UK is trying to roll out a framework that would be voluntary to comply in. That would essentially be like if you're manufacturing a device and you want to sell it within the UK, you get a sticker on the box essentially if you agree to do an SDLC and do things properly and push firmware updates and keep your devices up to date and secure.
Until a
should ask-
supply
We should
chain
ask
issue
Volkswagen
happens.
how that worked out.
How many
Yeah.
normies are going to look at that sticker and be like, "Oh, well, this is $700 more, well, pounds, I guess, but it has this sticker," or am I just going to get the cheap option off AliExpress or some shit?
Well, the thing is it needs
Well-
to be rolled out for every device that the company's pushing out across the board. It shouldn't have a
Yeah.
sticker signifying that this is a special one that's secure. All devices should be that way.
I mean,
I
but
agree.
security is not we're not going to get 100% coverage, right? Unless we unplug it all. So is there
I
a different
mean-
way to do that in terms of reading and like the coverage? Yeah, we want to try, right? But the reality is rolling
No,
out.
what I mean is I want to unplug it all. I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
being a farmer again.
I'm good with it. Absolutely.
So if
But
you guys
also,
remember
anybody can
back in,
introduce something into the supply chain and put their own sticker on it.
Right.
Right.
And it's only a matter of time before you get Chinesium out here being sold at like gas stations and stuff
Well-
that have a really good copy of this
And-
sticker.
I mean,
I bring
the
this up
worst of
because
that
I got a
is-
buddy working as he's doing incident response for a project in the Middle East where an adversarial country was doing contract for this work, and they were able to put in tracking devices, all sorts of stuff into said project, and they're trying to go through and figure it all out and clean it up.
he the one that was working on those dudes that put out the blowing up pagers that blew up this year.
No,
Damn.
Yeah, talk
same,
about supply
same
chain.
idea though. Same idea.
I want somebody that was in on that just for either side of that coin. I would love to have that conversation.
I should ask him. He might know somebody.
So we do have this one from this is from routersecurity.org, and U.S. weighs in on the ban of Chinese-made routers in millions of American homes. In brief, TP-Link is a Chinese company. The article goes in to talk about how, as a result of these poorly secured devices being on the internet that may have intentional backdoors, all three branches of the U.S. government are investigating TP-Link: Commerce, Defense, and Justice Department. They're routinely shipped to customers with security flaws like Cameron just mentioned, and the company fails to address them, according to people familiar with the matter. They often have bugs, regardless of the manufacturer. TP-Link is not the only one out there having this issue. On the government side, TP-Link is used by NASA, the Defense Department, and the DEA.
That's
So
scary.
Wow.
that's probably going to get it on that list of banned devices you're not allowed to have in a government organization, like the
Huawei.
Vision cameras
Yeah,
that are
cough,
still
cough,
everywhere in
Huawei.
government that are not supposed to be gone. The issue with some of these is they sent essentially a Hikvision camera, for instance, or a router made by Huawei cannot be in a government-owned facility. So what that ends up happening is they buy a router that's not called Huawei, but is actually running Huawei firmware, and it's a rebranded one that just got sold anyway, running
Fantastic.
the same device. So like that's what happens. And if you look at the MAC address of the device, it's going to still correlate to these incredibly vulnerable Internet of Shit devices. Kaspersky,
Well,
as well, who's also banned, by the way, makes a little difference. In router security, routers have to have self-updating abilities with bug fixes.
Yep.
And there has to be a software expiration date on routers, just like on milk.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
in 10 years from now, you can't be rocking a router that's got a gig of RAM. Obviously, as things get more complicated and there needs to be more shit on your router, it needs more hardware to be able to run the firmware. OpenWRT can sometimes extend the life of a shitty old router by a couple of years. And it tends to be mostly secure, but every now and then even that has a vulnerability in it that needs to get patched. pfSense, also great open source firmware that you can put as a firewall on a little shitty old router, make use of it again. But even that has had auth bypass and all sorts of other bugs. So it's always best to not expose any ports you don't need to the internet. Turn off UPnP. Whoever the hell decided UPnP was a good idea should be shot. And these are like just basic things that everybody should be doing, but most people don't know that they should. So that ends up,
disable WPS.
Well, so even if you do, though, right? Here's the thing: the attacks these days are able to do, sub-millisecond token replays and jump between networks and establish persistence, right off the bat. So the reality of trying to protect that type of an attack surface, right? And the other part of this is, I think that a lot of people aren't taking the blast radius of these as seriously as they should, right? So Ford has if a car manufacturer has a recall, right, or a defect, you may be talking 1 million cars, right? But they're individually dispersed, and they're typically one or you get maybe 10 that you have before you identify the issue and fix it, right? With this, you're talking about when we discover it, we're at 65,000 exploited, right, and rising, with no channel to do consumer recalls or anything like the NTSB for hardware. So I don't like that. Even if the Europe does pass something, that it's going to be voluntary. There's absolutely no strategic or competitive reason to do that right now, right? You're essentially adding weight to your process and cost, and you're fighting with people that say, hey, if I can get it out cheap and make that, we burn the company and spin up a new one.
And with the TP-Link stuff, aren't they end-of-lifing the vulnerable ones?
I just
like
bought
no more
one.
updates?
I bought one last month that is vulnerable. I had to take it off. Yeah. So they're still out there on the shelves,
Lovely.
actually.
Lovely.
They're-
You should buy them up now. Like, get all of them. Use them for research.
just war drive your neighborhood. You're good.
so do you want to cover this one that you had just shared there, Dataflex?
Yeah, this is from the beginning of the year, right? And so I look at New Year's. We want to look at yearly trends. A couple of years ago, they were targeting credential stores, password managers. Right, 2FA still hadn't really fully taken off or been fully implemented. So if you were able to grab credentials, so phishing was still big. Those are still there, but I'm seeing this year this kind of theme of network-based attacks. So we're going back down to the beginning of the OSI and hitting that from where the tech has been innovating, right? With the large-scale rollout of 2FA, the need to do time-based, weakness attacks and essentially man in the middle becomes more priority. And I think that's what we're seeing, is that the attack surface has changed. And honestly, we haven't been prepared to address that.
Yeah, and we were even seeing variations on this same botnet here that you linked to. I believe it's called KV botnet, where the threat actors were utilizing this botnet to pinpoint systems that were in Wi-Fi range of their intended target, and then from there, essentially pop your neighbor's Wi-Fi to get into your network, kind of thing. Because a lot of the time, when somebody's got WPA3 set up in an enterprise way with a radius server, in order to log into the Wi-Fi, you need your username and password, but there's not usually MFA on top of that. So they essentially figured out if we can bridge to somebody who's nearby and we've got valid creds that we can't otherwise use, we can essentially take that person's Wi-Fi, make it connect instead of distributing Wi-Fi out to the people who are here. We're going to take that over and have it bridge to that network that we'd like to connect to, and pop them from that infrastructure using a valid username and password, which is an incredibly complicated attack chain, in my opinion, because it's going to require geolocation of not only your victim, but figuring out that there's a vulnerable router near your victim that you've already got as part of your botnet. But assuming this botnet was big enough, and
it's
So
it's a funny thing to theorize. This could have potentially been useful on that phishing engagement, since I needed to be on that person's network to establish that VPN. It would have been cool to use this technique.
Right.
So
and these are the same things that can be used by us. Go ahead, Dataplex. Sorry.
yeah, no, there was some malware. I want to say it was this year or last year at DEF CON that they presented kind of the EFF did a study on tracking this malware down, and eventually found it was developed by I'm gonna forget the country, but their version of the CIA. And in the test data that they found, right, they found one Wi-Fi hotspot name, and using that, they were able to locate the building and floor where the operation was hosted, right? So the other aspect of this is if you have 65% of TP links owned, are you starting to establish location and time-based attacks where I know you're not home because I can see movement of all the devices that are associated with you, right? The other aspect of this is attacking from the home, and with us all being work from home and stuff, right, through COVID.
Like we ever leave our houses.
Right. So it's also the lowest security level that you're going to see, right? It's not until they have firmly established themselves there, and that's pretty easy, that they then go after a target they're really looking for, right?
I wonder if they correlate that with like Wiggle or Wiggle.net, like the thing that geolocates everybody's router and puts it in a little map for you.
Yeah.
I know they've got an API that you can call, and I'm sure there's other services that do the same thing. I'm sure like Google has all that data as well. They probably just don't share it. And I remember there was an issue with Apple earlier this year where they were leaking that data via API calls, essentially that you could query other Apple devices and where they were without having to go get a geofence warrant. So there was also an interesting thing earlier this year, I believe, where they were utilizing a technique like this, where they're pivoting from the Wi-Fi that was blamed on one of these larger breaches from that I think it might have been the National Public or something else like that. Also, somebody, a dev with the LastPass, I think, was running Plex on their home box, and they were able to make their own 0-day for Plex specifically by pulling it down and going through the open source code parts of it. They figured out a 0-day, specifically targeted that LastPass dev, and for whatever reason, he had essentially the keys to the kingdom on his home computer. So once they popped them, they had everything. I think it kind of goes to the need to segment work data from personal data, especially with the work from home revolution. Not every company sent everybody a laptop who's going to be working from home. A lot of people got their home computers joined via VPN to work networks. And if those routers are vulnerable that are running in these people's houses, and somebody knows this employee works for that company, these are the kind of threats that are now we're going to be facing, essentially, where you got somebody who's working for you with a compromised router, and they're running essentially their own computer with their own software updates, which means it's probably going to be pretty behind. And now you've got an attack path right into your company's infrastructure, especially if you're not using a zero trust solution where you're segmenting your resources, having access groups so only X person can access Y resource, or this group can access this resource. If traditional VPN is still in use with work from home, it's fucked, So
I mean, It would
It's a scary attack
depend on
surface.
it would depend on the network configuration and the domain policy, right? So if what does domain list that user has access to?
Y'all are jumping way ahead, right? We're talking about Soho routers that people plug
Oh,
in
my bad.
because AT&T just flipped
I
them
I,
on
I thought
fiber.
I thought that you were talking about once that connection had been compromised, then that Soho router is VPN'd into the company, right? So
I don't
then
think I see any home users. Yeah.
that
There
VPN
could be, though.
connection. Excuse me.
Sorry, go ahead.
So so the individual is VPN'd into the company. The individual is the one who's been breached, right? That individual who's VPN'd in is working from home. They should have the appropriate credentials set up for the domain, right? So, like as a domain user that's VPN in, what then that would have your ACL for that user, correct? Right,
Correct.
and then that's where that segmentation would take place. I think with what you were saying earlier.
Kind
think-
of, sort of.
If I can chime in and put two things out there and get y'all's feedback on this. So number one, VPNs are pointless, and the majority of VPN solutions this year were popped also. Monty, Cisco, Checkpoint, Fortinet, right? Palo. Did I miss anybody? Cisco. So you got
Just
that.
use an asterisk.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's my point. So let's assume all the infrastructure, and I always take a assume breach posture. But the second part of that is that boundary really isn't a priority boundary anymore, right? For a lot of people that are tech oriented or that are doing SaaS based business. So these latest attacks with the Chrome browser and router, they've been targeted.
You're breaking up. Data.
Yeah, probably Chinese on my router.
Say your last sentence.
Great firewall, China. Great firewall, China.
Yeah. So
Square.
what they're targeting right now with these attacks is Azure authentication tokens, Google authentication tokens, right? These are SaaS services. There is no VPN connection into those anymore. So from a security perspective, I don't see a way to establish that boundary there in a cost-effective way for most companies.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using like a zero trust solution, right?
I was just going to say that.
Lock down resources by, the person's got to be authenticated. But like you said, if somebody's stolen that guy's session cookie, unless they are him as far as the company is concerned. And I mean, you can kind of restrict it a little bit to a degree to like known IPs or something. But with the way that consumer grade stuff works, like your IP might rotate fairly frequently, so you can't do it that way necessarily. You can have impossible travel, but the second somebody's using Zscaler and it looks like they're both on their company network and at their house in another state, all of a sudden that alert becomes useless.
Been dealing with that for a long time in multiple organizations. Yep, love that.
So what's the reality? Like, how do we? I look at this and I think I actually start thinking sovereignty, national sovereignty, right? Digital sovereignty. I don't think this is something that home
users, it's not baked into what they're doing.
Right.
It's just, it's not a thought for most people to have this kind of stuff. If you're having somebody who's working like from home, but they have a high level of access into your environment, they're, obviously you have to segment as best you can. But if you're a network admin who's going to need access to your core switch and say your actual file server or whatever the hell else you've got up where it's holding your crown jewels, if he's going to need access to that and he's working from home and not going into an office, how do you secure it? Well, I mean, you got to do the best you can with least privilege access. But outside of that, I've heard of solutions like security fabric things, essentially where it's a private network that's on an edge device, like plugged in before a router, and they'd have to jack into that to access the company network. But that's kind of just like Zscaler on different hardware, in my opinion, and also not necessarily as mature as it could be. My brother actually sells a solution like that nowadays, where he used to sell Palo Alto shit. But
that's when you give those admins, you don't give their regular credentials, those privileges, you give them other credentials that have those privileges that rotate on a 24-hour basis or something like that, that run through some jump box or something on that network.
So again, I'm going to put out
Token
there
expiration
the
too,
non-techie aspect of this, which is that the company that's struggling to stay competitive with the company that's not, and it's a crapshoot whether or not one of them or the other will be breached, right? So I find it at odds, right? If we look at the numbers and say, okay, let's assume everybody's going to be breached within a 3-year period of some way, right? Is it beneficial to invest in that, all that upfront security and spend that money there, right? And that's kind of the friction I see in the cybersecurity industry, right? Is that how do you tie business value to that security if we're essentially saying the system's broken?
Cool.
That's a good point.
And
As
the
well
other
as
part of this
point
is we have our
Nathan made
Fed.
there in the chat.
Yeah, I'm sitting here staring at that. Personal devices are connected to anything actually sensitive, also any company using the cloud. So there's everything they get. Good on Affix. I'm actually staring at that tangentially. Somebody very close in my life is dealing with a company that won't give them a laptop, but is absolutely dealing with PII data. So they are forcing that person to go into their office with their own personal laptop. And I'm like, that's sketchy. That's going to be wild when they get hit. It's going to be so wild.
Every time I've had to
BYOD
deal with
can be
PII,
done. So I'd like to make a point that BYOD can be done properly. It's
They
just
did not.
most people
I
don't do
promise
it
you they
properly.
did not.
If you have like VDI set up on top of that, where somebody can securely remote in like over Citrix or something, and they can get a desktop that's somewhere else that's not physically on their shit, and you don't have copy and paste between devices enabled, like you can do it securely. It's going to eventually also probably be a pain in the ass for the people using it who want to copy and paste between devices and get turned off anyway.
Sure.
So
I would like someone on here to explain to me, like, walk me through tomorrow when you perform your own, like, lapendectomy or something, right? Like, yeah, you need medical support. You're going to have to do all this yourself. Here's a scalpel. Here's an instruction book, right? We tell you all the scary things. Go.
we use Surgery GPT.
There we go.
we're gonna take this little tiny camera right here.
Final
We're gonna
interview.
shove it down our
interview.
throat.
I'm confused. Where that's why
so
you go
my
pay
point
somebody
there,
who knows what they're doing. That's what you pay.
But at scale,
for.
That's fair. But I don't have the money to afford the surgeon for everything I could ever potentially need. And just like I don't think that most people can afford the attention and the effort they need for this cybersecurity stuff, right? And medically is much better understood. If you're critically ill, you're going to, die. Cybersecurity, that it's not seen that way. This is an engineering science, and I think a big part of the problem is we're putting the responsibility of engineering on people whose skill sets, they're SMEs in other domains, right? And so to say that they get what they deserve, that's not fair, right? This stuff like competing against Amazon and Walmart and China is not something that most people had to do before 20 years ago.
So is your point that manufacturers should spend more time on SPLC?
I think that we should have something akin to the NTSB for hardware that's going to be used in mass, right? But it goes against the growth mindset of the country, of America. Right? I'm not going to put this podcast to one region. I think that's a big challenge. Like we've said, our Fed chair and rich people just said, we can't reduce spending to take care of the deficit. We have to outgrow it, right? And that puts us directly at odds. We have to go faster with the security concerns, right, that we have to have in place.
Yep. Push out the product, worry about security later.
Right. But we're at a critical junction where that is becoming harmful for the country as a whole. And,
we've heard reports also of like social media apps that are essentially developed primarily in other countries that at least people claim, I don't have verified reports, that then software updates are pushed to these apps when it's found that they're in interesting networks that might have trade secrets that want to get stolen, or maybe government officials accessing documents that they would want to see, and essentially weaponizing even Android applications and turning them into reverse pivots into corporate networks. And that's a scary reality that we live in.
Well,
Because
Well, I'm going to put
like,
NSO Group, which just got convicted, and the Pegasus malware out there, right? Nobody here would be
Yeah.
able to prevent it or had any kind of prevention around that.
and they had a
So
0-click install for iOS and Android at one point for that, where you could literally just
remotely.
text somebody a message they would never even see on their phone and they were popped. It's like, that's
So
advanced fucking malware that is only supposed to be sold to cops and nation states, but was then somehow got into the hands of a lot more people than that. And it's
So
because
I've
those people
seen
should
that
have them.
target
actually being
journalists,
deployed into home routers, so that even if you wiped all the devices, right, it had flashed Pegasus effectively into the firmware, and it would
Right.
reinfect the phone and then reinfect everything around it.
It's like
That's
a rootkit,
cheeky.
essentially. You
Yeah.
know,
Nothing like getting got. Like Afix was saying a second ago, he said something about having a company that would not have some kind of. Actually, I have to go back and look at the comment. I'm so sorry. Nobody would let that happen without remote wipe capabilities, and anyone giving their company access to remote wipe device is insane. I agree with that. However, I can't speak to if, say, government officials have that on their personal iPhones. I would be willing to bet probably not. Maybe they have something like that set up. I know in the instance that I was referring to with the person that I'm dealing with, they definitely do not. It is just straight for lack of a better term, raw dogging it in their network and just going at it. So like it is a matter of time before that specific place gets hit somehow. It's gonna be wild. But yes, I agree with that. We're getting well into BYOD is too far.
Yeah, and back to the BYOD thing, some people argue that a VM will suffice, but with the VM breakouts these days, it's kind of like, even if you put the company's remote management software on there, their security stuff on your VM, yada, yada, it's still, there's a chance that it's going to get it. Like, if your personal thing gets breached, there's a chance that VM could still get popped.
Yeah, they do have sandboxes. They have sandboxed that information where BYOD, like Symantec does it. I know who else has one. I know a couple of companies have them. I actually, for my old organization, I tested some of these. They will sandbox the data for your organization on your device, and will be able to remotely wipe that part of the device, but not your personal stuff. And they claim not to be able to have access to the stuff that you have on your device.
Sorry, I've had experience with that, wiping contacts and like losing 10 years of
no, I don't trust any of that
relationships. Because of company. So here's an idea, right? I'm trying to think of other ways, like just again kind of taking it to the macro level.
Sure.
Right, I've had this concept, like the idea that we should regionalize networks or data governance, right? So it's in a lot of other ways. This is how we deal with national level crisis management and things like that, right? Is defining zones or districts or whatever it is. If let's say you had an app, I'm thinking of also like establishing like community too, right? So would Seattle have a different set of apps and networking than Texas, for example, right? And would that help prevent the mass scale of these attacks, right? At least reduce that, and then also put back in place some type of framework for if data is stolen in this area, then these are the responsible parties for handling that.
Sure, but then you have to worry about the money that it would cost to do. So you can spend a whole lot of money on really shittily made apps all over the place, or you can just secure one properly.
Find me that one, and I
will. No. What I'm saying is if you're looking at it from that point of view, why would you make a bunch of really shittily coded apps that are vulnerable for different places when they can all get hit, say the same way, or they don't just copy and paste everything from one place to the other and change the name?
I think it goes to
the thing, right?
Capitalism and the ability to have opportunity and differentiation through local context, I guess.
Sure, but if you have one company that has that data,
I don't trust them.
And I don't either. What I'm saying is that data is going to one place regardless. You're not going to have a whole bunch of different people building these apps. You're going to have one, because you're not going to have, for healthcare, for instance, you're not going to have, but you've got a couple of big players. You've got Cerner, you've got Epic, you've got eClinicalWorks, you've got a couple of others.
Right.
Those are the big players. You're not going to have a whole bunch of mom and pop shops making apps.
We do. We have hundreds of thousands of them actually, because of the CARES and Cures Act that opened up FHIR APIs and required them to allow access to individual healthcare data. So yeah, there's tens of thousands. Epic, right? They all had to make giant shifts in the way that they market their companies, because now, rather than being the EMRs, right, and being federally backed with subsidies, they're actually having to go compete with these startup apps. And so Epic has the Epic Marketplace.
Yep.
Cerner got bought by Oracle, and
Okay, I didn't know that. I've
Meditech.
been out of healthcare for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Oracle bought Cerner. You learned a thing.
Yep.
That's weird.
So, it's a good play, right? If you're thinking in future terms, like data is the key, and I think that's why they made that play.
Sure.
The other thing here for me would be that nope, lost it. Data.
You're on a
data,
roll there,
right, so,
too.
okay, so I'm assuming all the data's stolen, right? They know everything about all of us. And
I mean, yeah, OPM got hacked, right?
Right. So I'm going to say we should actually make a push to acknowledge that. Nobody cares if their data is stolen until they're affected by it. Let us go back and I'm going to say hack that stuff and not be penalized for the data. Right. Let's say you get access to that. You report, responsible disclosure. Don't hold me responsible because I'm trying to help that system, right? As opposed to you waiting until China shows up and just takes all of that, right?
That's what bug bounties, right?
We've all seen how responsible disclosure works. We just had that one guy on the show the other day.
Yeah, and we've all seen what happens when bug bounties aren't listened to.
Yeah, and even then, you have places. Healthcare doesn't care about security. You know that as well as I do.
Right.
So, like, that's kind of the jam. And again, I there are some things that won't ever change in healthcare. That's definitely one of them.
I think that they didn't have to worry about that in the blast radius. Yes, could you go break into an office and steal file folders? Absolutely, right. And did they leave them in the cafe, in the coffee shop, whatever, right? They didn't leave 100 million people's file folders there, right? So,
but then you start creating pacemakers that can be connected to wirelessly,
Bluetooth,
and that would be something you think about. And it's not.
They're going to care eventually, but how many people are going to get hurt until they do?
Yeah, when you're ransomwaring pacemakers, you're a bastard first and foremost. And let me say that again: if you're ransomwaring pacemakers, you are a bastard. Go to hell.
And that was another first we had this year, where somebody died en route to a hospital while having a heart attack.
Yep.
And it's the first time that's ever happened because of a ransomware incident hitting a fucking hospital.
Yep.
So
I've got a buddy that was able to connect to his pacemaker with a Bluetooth antenna, and he was like, "This isn't good."
Yeah,
they have resource exhaustion attacks that affect those, where they essentially keep trying to connect over and over again and drain the battery on those things. And
they have barely any, if any, security at all. That's the thing about them. So, like, medical devices, and as I said, I haven't been in the medical industry for a few years now, but from as close as I am to the medical industry still, tangentially through other people, I can tell you that it's still not a thing. Secured medical devices just aren't really there.
They can't. I mean, they can't even push updates to them, right? And this is a big challenge. Like, you've got systems there where you actually have a very valid case for don't push that update, right? Even though I know there's a potential for this, like, I don't know the outcome of that.
Be worried about updating a pacemaker because you might stop somebody's heart.
So, speaking of, one of our guests one time, Alan, had a very interesting project when he was attempting to connect his flipper to his own medical device.
When did Alan come on? When was that one?
Alan Tazboy. Well, Tazbot.
Oh, Tazbot. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Guy.
Alan.
I think I missed that part.
I'm afraid you did, and that was like the worst episode to miss because he's super cool, and you two would have gotten along so well. But
I think I pulled it up at the end of that episode, if I recall correctly. Like, I was asking about building my own taskbot, and he was like, "Nah, man, we'll see you to hell." And I was like, "Cool, all right, well, you get."
Yeah, I can't say I blame him on that, but
no, that's cool. But like,
nothing against you. It's just he has to be very protective of that copyright because of what he does. But he attempted to connect to his own certain implant with his flipper, and it went surprisingly well. That would be very interesting to have him on to talk about.
Yeah,
Digital
it's
witch doctors.
pretty easy these days. And
I don't
that's-
want to dox any medical issues though, so I'm being quiet on which implant it was.
Yeah, if
So-
you went to the biohacking village, Nina would have made you sign that NDA before you could even talk about it.
As long as
There
I
was-
can undo them on it, I'm fine.
Yeah, there we go.
I
I
read
have
about
my-
a Bitcoin
I
museum
Replace
this
his
year.
eye
That was
with
fun.
like a
I
laser.
hacked my penile implant, and now I can just get hard whenever I want.
There we go. That's it.
That's some
My
cyberpunk shit
pacemaker-
right there.
My
That is
pacemaker is
cyberpunk.
running Doom. Is that a good thing?
Definitely.
Only for the first few levels, but afterwards it can become a bit of a problem when they start becoming more intense.
Mega Hitler in my heart. What?
Oh, are you talking
Oh, that's
about modern
Wolfenstein. Oh my god.
politicians?
My bad. That was the wrong game. Damn. That was Wolfenstein.
So, two trends this year that we wanted to bring up. Dataflex mentioned maintenance contracts and tiers. That's very valid, as well as Sledge bringing up mergers, Broadcom, and VMware.
yeah,
so
I was going to say
VMware-
fuck Broadcom. That's
They're the same conversation, actually.
Yeah, he was
Fuck
responding to me.
Yeah.
fuck Broadcom.
Yes.
They go hand in hand. So,
Yeah, I'm still
Broad-
mad about that.
Broadcom bought VMware, right? And for the first couple of months, they really definitely fumbled the ball. They increased the price of utilizing that software for companies already
So
engaged
ESXi specifically and the vSphere stuff.
Yeah,
They
their
made
virtual
connected
VMware
together.
Workstation.
Yep.
They're,
all
They
that
made Workstation
they're
free.
Type
but
1
Workstation-
hypervisors.
Was probably one of the most pirated freaking apps ever because they didn't do any kind of license check on it anyway. You could pop in a key that you'd find on GitHub and it would just work.
It's a lost leader.
Yeah, it was always a loss leader because essentially you get people hooked on that VM platform, and then transitioning a VM from Workstation over to ESX is fairly easy. You can connect it right to it and migrate your VM you've built. So if you're talking about a bit more complicated stuff like a different hypervisor, there's nothing really where you can build it locally and then easily connect and move it over with like Proxmox yet. I mean, you could build it in VHDX and then hope it will
Not
boot.
easily, but not impossible either. I've done it.
My first run when I was doing vSphere stuff was I started in VirtualBox and then built VMs, golden image VMs, to push out to an entire organization over vSphere. It's like it's possible. It's complicated, but it
what
works.
you just
what I
said,
love,
in an
what I love,
OVF
though-
format. And
Oh,
Yeah.
I love download me a good OVF full of credentials and all kinds of certs and stuff. It's
yes,
so good.
that too.
So good.
But what CrowdStrong just said, even the tools that you download to convert from VBox to VMware, all it is changing is like one single line, and you can manually go in there and do that.
So,
But
Broadcom,
from
go ahead.
well, from ESXi to Prox, it's a little bit trickier. Prox, I can't remember if it was on the VMware site or the Proxmox site, but there's actually a tool now to do it pretty seamlessly.
So
And
I
I
got
bet it's probably on Prox because VMware doesn't want you to leave their platform.
well, it
two
seems
different
that
things.
they do if you're not a company that makes enough money for their new licensing,
I mean, that's
because
fair.
they definitely jack the price up an
Yeah,
astronomical amount.
Yep.
And even when people had existing support contracts were told they're no longer valid.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, a whole
I
bunch of
think
people do the shit out of them too.
Netflix is
AT&T
suing them
and-
actively
Yep.
because Netflix was running their shit on their infrastructure.
Yep.
Essentially, they were renting cloud resources that were running ESX under the hood as the hypervisor to level 1.
See.
And now they had to migrate all their shit off of it because they jacked the price up for them like 30 times.
Yep. Proofpoint was running a lot of their stuff. I know. As I said, AT&T came out and sued the hell out of them. All kinds of people,
all
man.
of them have
If you-
enterprise
Speaking of-
licenses.
Speaking of
Yep.
Proofpoint,
Why?
it is like one of the biggest freaking email gateways out there for enterprise stuff. And their user interface looks like it's from 1992. You'd
my
think
brother
they
in
could
Christ.
update that,
No.
considering
Have
how
you
much
seen-
of market cap they've got. You'd think they could at least build a usable interface and not have it split against 3 different
I don't think
products
there's.
to be able to ban an email.
I want it to stay
their
simple.
stuff that was on prem. They had it running.
Dataflex wants to talk to just after you're done.
Yeah, you're good.
Specifically on vSphere stuff. That's all virtualized on. So all of this came about, and then so it doesn't work anymore, right? Unless you pay a exorbitant price for it. So they built this cloud platform, and it looks like a 2-year-old put it together in 3 weeks, and it is absolute dog shit. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but just kind of poke around that if you get the chance. I think they may have a demo out there somewhere, but like it's awful. It's so bad.
Let's go to
No,
Dataplex. He was trying to make a point
used,
like 2 minutes ago.
Sorry
probably
about that.
used like a final UI design AI or something, you know.
Something like that.
Yeah, so Broadcom, number one, buying VMware. I think that's either the smartest move they've ever made, or or it was to acquire maintenance contracts and then get sued. I guess it didn't make sense. I think the cloud's overhyped, and as we see these attacks that are getting larger and right, the cloud's not making sense. And as those customers drop and as those companies start, toppling a little bit because they're top heavy, right? We're going to see the cost of that rise, and I think we're going to see people move back to on-prem. So if that is the case, then VMware at Broadcom making this move was incredibly smart, because there's nobody building for on-prem right when that happens, unless
That is a good take.
AWS data center, which they're also sued because it's basically people back at AWS, like, working remotely on those things.
So I wonder if
The
they're
second part of that,
justifying.
yeah,
Okay,
real
go for
quick, second point here. Broadcom is one company that we've actually seen maturely roll out large scale technology. I'll say maturely, right? That I love them or hate them in terms of their politics and everything. The products that they produce are fairly good compared to the rest of the market. So if that's the case, and if they take that and can put that in VMware, and we say VMware is actually large scale infrastructure, then it may make sense.
I wonder if the price hikes in cloud have anything to do with adjusting for not having to pay for somebody to manage your servers on-prem, and then just kind of taking that and slapping it on the price of the cloud servers.
They're running out of efficiency, right? The cloud, here's the dirty little secret. None of that would have been as successful as it was. It was not growing at the rate it did, except for COVID forced all of your data centers there. And so they had 3 years of horribly skewed growth, right? They're running out of power. I've got power issues in 3 out of 3 major clouds, right? Which they're talking about nuclear facilities to solve this. That's not an overnight solution for your medium SMB, even up to your, entry large scale enterprises. That's not a winning proposition, right?
Agreed. And even
And now with all
California's
this
been talking
AI
about-
shit coming out.
Go ahead, Slice.
So is it Broadcom or Nvidia? Who are we getting in bed with?
Flip a coin.
Why not both? Menage a trois, right?
All right, Havoc's turn.
Thank you, good sir. We saw California actually banning certain GPUs from being sold within stores and online marketplaces because they consume too much power and they don't want consumers wasting that power. I personally don't think the government should be in charge of what freaking GPU you can buy for your computer. And if you've got the money to turn the damn thing on and pay the power bill, you should be able to do it. But
Yeah, that's California.
Man.
That's
What a fucking phrase that is.
California's still in the U.S. Did they
It's
secede from the
California.
Union? Oh, it's
Yeah,
California.
right.
My bad.
Yep.
I thought they seceded from the Union.
They were talking
Oh,
about
that wasn't
it. I
what that
hope they
earthquake
do.
was. My bad.
I remember when
off.
Portland wanted to become part of Ohio. No, it was a thing. Not Portland. Oregon wanted to become part of Ohio and could be like Greater Ohio.
We won't allow them.
If I was in California, they would hate my server rack.
I think
If I was in California, I wouldn't be there long. They'd carry my ass out, or I'd carry my ass out. It'd be one of two.
There's only one.
My office space at Regis costs like $200 a month, right? And I was thinking how many Monero miners I would have to have on site at 50 cents a day or so to make up that $200 and then just have a free office. But I haven't taken advantage of it yet.
You can justify it by turning on a bunch of miners and just say, hey, it heats my house in the wintertime.
Hey, remember, any office is free if you are sneaky enough.
That's
also true. I totally have not ever done that before.
The town I currently live in has a really nice Christmas celebration every year. But as a result, they also happen to have outlets everywhere outside for those Christmas lights that are active year round. So I've been thinking about these Raspberry Pi Zeros I've got and these ESP devices.
Hey,
And
Dude, disguise
LoRa
one to look like an
Mesh Network.
external outlet box that just plugs in and connects to Wi-Fi, and boom, just mine all year round.
Just build like skimmers, but for power.
Yeah.
Instead, like fucking like an outlet skimmer. It looks like a power box. So just plug that shit in everywhere. Build a giant LoRa network and just like make it accessible.
Y'all
everywhere.
got me wanting to like unplug a red light cam and like plug one of my own boxes in or something.
All right, CrowdStrong, we've got a new 3D printing challenge.
hey,
Yep, want it?
I'm here for it. She's gonna take a whole bunch of these S3s and do that with them. She'll make her LoRa network and do all the things.
Just make it
you
look
got the
like an
S3
outlet.
too? Yeah.
Wait,
I-
I gotta check
I
my
would-
mail.
I would
Yeah.
rather I'm going to focus on the car hacking. I think that's a good bet, right? We're going to have fully connected wireless.
I just want a Tesla so I can
all the thing
break the
cars.
shit out of it.
Well, good
Mhm.
news.
My-
All
my
Teslas are
friend-
free if you're good enough.
My
Hold on,
friend,
what were you saying, Dataplex?
Hey, we love that.
And, you know,
Hey.
listen, everything's more mobile now. I think, you know, the plugging into the wall is cool, but you know, I moved on from Ethernet and I went to Wi-Fi. So you should just actually live in cars that pass by. You know, just
I mean,
jack
I
like
lived
a
in college,
minute of
cars in
you know,
college.
phone power out of there. The infotainment system, they don't really need that map, right?
well, you need to see how that data transfers across the CAN bus, right? And then what you're going to check is the cyclical redundancy check bit. And if that flag's been checked, then you're not going to be able to replay those packets across the CAN, and that's not going to allow you to hack the car.
The comma.ai is if y'all have heard of this, they've got actually a open pilot, so they're actively jacking into CAN bus systems, and Toyota and Ford are in response actively introducing encryption into their CAN bus for the first time in 2025. But
Wow.
they're introducing self-driving hardware that you can put inline in your controls, right? Now
That
it's
sounds like an
scary.
absolutely perfectly safe and wonderful idea.
You should
Mhm.
just
Well,
watch the video. It's amazing, but
If they set the
It's like the,
CRC bit on the packet, then you can't replay it. So I don't know why they would need that. And then when it's actually going across the CAN, it's all in fucking binary anyways.
that never stopped anyone.
Mhm.
No, that
Yeah,
you have to check for the cyclical redundancy check. And if that bit's been set, then you can't replay the packet.
Well, there have been some interesting devices out for car hacking that have fallen into the hands of criminals. Like there's this one that looks kind of like an old school flip phone, but the hardware inside is ESP8266 or 32 based, and you jack that thing in to headlight or any number of places on certain cars, like I believe the Kias, and you can remote start the damn thing. So like people would kick out the back light, plug this thing in, and be able to start the car. There's all sorts of stupid CAN bus tricks out there, and Car Hacking Village published a paper 2 years ago, I believe, on a bunch of them. That's fairly interesting. If you want to go look it up, anybody. But there's definitely a lot of vulnerabilities when it comes to cars. I just got a Toyota that's like 2 years old, and the infotainment system was not up to date off the bat when I bought the thing. In order to update it, I was expected to go grab a flash drive, format it FAT32, grab a file off their website, and plug it in. I went to go do that, and it didn't work. I had to bring it to the dealer, and then they were like, oh, well, here's the thing. You need to use a 1 gigabyte flash drive, and it doesn't say that on the website, and you're using like 64 gig. It's too big, and it won't work because you have multiple partitions.
Hell yeah, FAT32.
It's like FAT32. It's like,
get yours.
what year is it that we're still using FAT32 instead of XFAT on shit? And it's
What a time to be
NTFS,
alive.
anything new, you know?
Yeah, 2024
Format
is
a
the answer.
FAT32 on a 1 gig drive. Okay.
Where do you get a
and
1 gig thumb drive?
I have to encrypt my
usually
car.
from a vendor at a conference. You want to see the thumb drive? They actually put the firmware on too. It was
Oh
interesting.
my
because
god.
This is
it a
what it
pocket
looks
knife
like.
or a credit
It's-
card or something like that?
It looks like a key.
Oh, beautiful.
All right.
Yep.
Hey, I have
That
one of
means, you
those.
know, that has AliExpress written all over it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no backdoors
like-
or anything weird in that.
It's like the
I have
same
a
stuff you
bunch
get
of
on a
them. They're pretty
SpeakerNet
sweet.
back in the day,
you go.
just in terms of viruses from plugging in USB devices.
Mhm.
But like, and they update my firmware on my thing, and now I can go on my phone and I can check my tire pressure from my phone and that's the only feature I've got. And in order to check my tire pressure from my phone, it costs me $20 a month to have an internet connection connected on my phone that I
What
can't
the
use for anything
So,
else.
dude, those TPMS
That's wild.
sensors, that's actually an exploit right there. You can track it kind of like you do ADSP. Just drive around and just log shit.
Yeah, or y'all
I
can
have
just
thought
be like
about
I
running
do,
it through
drive up to 1,000.
Binwalk, the actual firmware to the infotainment system, running it through Binwalk and seeing if I can fuck with it. But I don't really have to anymore because on my rooted Android, I can actually just plug that fucker in, and with the Android auto hacks, I can literally just broadcast anything that's on my phone to the infotainment unit as if it were the actual touchscreen of my phone. So I got in trouble. I got pulled over, and I was watching Futurama on my infotainment system while sitting in traffic, and the guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing? I saw like Futurama up on there." I'm like, "Actually, no, I use Waze. And did you know they actually had these ads now when you're stopped? And that ad was a Futurama commercial, you know, Cartoon Network, I think, or something." And he let me go. I was like, "Yeah."
Let's hope he doesn't watch
Well
it.
done. Well done.
We did something like that with the Chromecasts back in the day when they first came out, just casting random shit to random people's hotel rooms in Vegas.
I remember being in a hotel and having my TV taken over, and it wasn't even during DEF CON. And I was just randomly broadcasting somebody's shit to my TV in a hotel, and I turn it off, and it would pop back on, and somebody would cast again. And if you went and looked on the Wi-Fi, there were like thousands of TVs, each one, nothing segmented, and all you had to do was just pick, and it was like Chromecast and room number. And it's like obviously somebody kept picking the wrong room trying to cast, and it would turn the
I would
TV
do that
on.
just to see what would show up.
Me too.
There's a bar I used to hang out at in Vegas called the Goat, and they let anybody on the Wi-Fi and have all the TVs in the bar on the Wi-Fi. So every now and then I would just cast random shit to the TVs. And one time my friend goes up to do karaoke on karaoke night, and right before his song goes to play, I cast a karaoke video of a completely different song that he had no intention to sing. And the DJ is trying to figure out what's going on.
Ram
Like
Ranch.
the wrong song's up there, and he's just standing there with the mic trying to sing a song he has no idea how to sing. It's fucking great.
Epic.
Ram Ranch or
How
bust.
shit-faced was he?
Not enough to sing Cher's Turn Back Time, I believe I put up there. He was trying to do, I think, Five-Finger Death Punch, Jekyll and Hyde, and I put up Cher's Turn Back Time. It's definitely not the genre he was looking for.
Man
but
did
it
not
was
have the
amazing.
vocal
This is
range.
literally coming out right now about the Treasury.
So Treasury says Chinese hackers remotely access workstations, documents, and major cyber incident. Let's see what we can find on that and share it if we can. The Treasury getting hacked is a pretty big deal. Oh, Dataplex already has an article up.
Was
Yeah,
posted
sick,
like
dude.
20 minutes
Do
ago.
a share
Oh
screen.
my god, cool.
Oh, so we
That
got
is-
breaking news on here.
Yeah, that's straight up live.
Breaking
And-
news.
You're live, dude. This is great.
Whoop.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have to have like a stock ticker if we're gonna do breaking news. So
Oh my God.
Let's
Just
go.
have a Monero ticker
Banner.
because nothing else matters.
Banners.
Yep.
Merry Christmas. Oh, Happy New Year. That's the
It's
one.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, I'm a couple of days late. Now it's Valentine's Day. I'm sorry. Ask Walmart. How the fuck did we get here?
Shut up, Internet
Oh,
Explorer.
Beyond Trust. Okay. Wow.
Shut up, Internet Explorer.
Burn.
It's funnier because it took me a second to catch up with that.
There you go.
Well,
There you
I
go.
mean, it's an Explorer, dude.
See,
You're still
yeah.
loading.
That's
So basically, it
the
says
goal.
that Beyond Trust was a token was compromised on a third-party platform that led to, just the Treasury being hacked. Whatever.
Somebody got Beyond Trust. Look, it's another. What was that one? Not Infanti. It was ConnectWise. It's another ConnectWise. Hey,
Yeah.
congratulations! They did it.
What? I mean, it's the easy
ConnectWise,
target.
their
Right? This is
screen
the easy
receiver.
way in because
Yep.
nobody has central visibility on any of these platforms that they're leveraging. So,
Yep.
and everybody,
Hey, look,
if
it was
anybody's works in
Salt
cybersecurity, you know
Typhoon.
everything's a shit show. But
Yep.
we're
Yeah, Havoc?
offsetting the risk by thinking you do it better than we do.
That's why we drink.
Havoc
Yeah.
had something.
So the Treasury
Over the
Department
last-
said it learned of this on December 8th when a third-party software service, Beyond Trust, flagged that hackers had stolen the key used by the vendor to secure a cloud-based service used to remotely provide tech support to workers.
Holy
So
fuck.
Beyond Trust, around that same time, Sledge and I were doing a pen test, and they couldn't get us access into the box because their Beyond Trust was having issues, right?
Oh,
So it's
yep.
kind of ironic that it affected even the pen testers on an engagement because they couldn't create a new Beyond Trust account due to this issue with the compromised key and systems that were down being fixed at the time.
Fucking
So
We
right.
it
should
is
put that as a constraint in the report.
Salt Typhoon. Who called him Salt Typhoon?
Yeah, can we get a better name in here?
Volt
Is that,
Typhoon and
that's
Salt
not, that does
Typhoon.
not sound like CrowdStrike.
Yeah, they'd never admit to being that salty.
Okay,
Famous
so-
Sparrow. I could see Famous Sparrow. UNC 2286. But it looks like Famous Sparrow. That's probably CrowdStrike's.
Yeah.
Well, usually with that
Temporary.
naming convention, I think it's either CrowdStrike or Mandiant, right?
Yeah, that's the Famous Sparrow. That would probably be it. But I don't know Salt Typhoon. I'm looking to see who did that because I'm curious.
All right. I got to bounce out, guys. It was nice meeting everybody. Have a great
Nice
night.
meeting you. Thanks for
You too.
joining
Thank you,
us.
Cameron.
Hope you feel
Thanks for
better.
hopping in, man.
Have a great
Peace,
night.
man. Feel better soon.
Me.
Cameron's a
I
really
am
great
wrong.
pro, man.
Ghost Emperor is from Kaspersky. Famous Sparrow was ESET. Salt Typhoon was Microsoft, and UNC 2286 is Mandiant. Wild. Okay, I wonder why CrowdStrike isn't like on this.
I'm
Where you
sure
at,
they have
so-
a threat actor profile in their shit for them. Just they probably call them something else.
I have to look at that. I'm curious. I'm nosy.
Well, go and
Okay,
log
so-
into your CrowdStrike
wow.
instance and go to the threat actor intelligence area and pull it up. Why don't you? Hundreds of organizations were potential Salt Typhoon victims as well. So this says that this is from December 23rd, so last week. Hacking group Salt Typhoon has ensnared major providers and targeted dozens of high-value political figures, including people tied to President-elect Donald Trump. 80 firms were reported to have been infiltrated and used as stepping stones in the attack. Several hundred organizations, both telecom companies and others, were notified. Password apparently, sadly, was 1111.
God damn it, man. Come on.
Oh. We
Come
deserve that
on.
one as a nation for that.
You win the wall of sheep.
You deserve it at this point.
Okay,
You
so
deserve it.
something else here that I want to
I
point
quit.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how many
Yeah, it's
drinks I'm
better
gonna
you
need to
getting
drink to
fired.
forget that.
I don't
happened.
trust Beyond Trust with a 1111 password. It's,
I just opened
So-
my
Fantastic.
thing of Kraken and just took a big ass swig, and now my tonsils are burning.
Okay,
Uh,
so two things here.
What?
Number one
That-
is that these attacks identify which vendors have been chosen to be FedRAMP compliant and given an authority to operate, right? So Beyond Trust being the breach here, we can expect that the actually just moves them into a different category of customer. Number two, they're going to get support. Obviously, I didn't actually know that Beyond Trust was part of this until right now. It's been a month. Shouldn't that have been out there because they're kind of a critical services provider? So there's a bit of protection here, right? Where we're talking about we need to notify immediately. We've got new HIPAA laws requiring data return, and then we've got the government being like, our pants are down and we can't say anything until a month later.
Solar
Like-
Winds 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Yep. Back
Yeah.
in Solar Winds hack. We love that. That was a nightmare.
Man,
the
you want to talk about
DG
segmenting and
you guys remember that SolarWinds attack, the supply chain from earlier this year?
Yes, that was.
There was a
beautiful.
thing that was put
God
out on
damn it.
GitHub for the DGA that was associated with the domain generation algorithm for the callback. And if you did historic DNS, if you had access to any of the services that let you do like either historic DNS lookups or like essentially like looking at what DNS records are being queried for a domain like OTX tends to do for a bunch for free, you could reverse that DGA, and oftentimes it would be the company name or domain name essentially encoded with that DGA algorithm. So in order to determine who was actually popped by the SolarWinds hack, you could literally go to OTX and look at all the different people who hit that DNS, and then reverse that DGA and get a list of all the companies that were popped, and a bunch of them never admitted to being popped. Nobody filed that 10K there or 8K they were supposed to on it in that list. You know, it was like definitely interesting to see behind the scenes that their DGA gave away the actual companies that were hacked.
And if anybody's interested in what he just said, 8K and 10K, refer to a previous episode.
Yep.
Mhm.
Hey,
Link here.
When the fuck did we get a live
Up here
ticker?
somewhere.
I have
Link
an idea.
over here.
Why are we doing this? When did we get a ticker? This is funny.
Well, when
You
we
just
started
throw that out
covering
there,
that
like-
Okay.
news.
What
I
if
love that. It's good.
just instead of at the beginning of like every porn website, you have the age verification that they want. It's just like a password. Please don't use 1111 as your password. It'd cover more people, and they'd hear that message better, right?
For those
My
of you in
age
the
is my
country in the state
password.
that doesn't do it, this is what he's referring
You're
to.
gonna get us
Verify me.
If you live in
God
Utah
damn it.
and you want to go watch porn, most of the websites are going to do some shit like
Fucking-
this.
Yeah, Florida's doing the thing, man. I know they are now, which is wild, but like, oh god.
I like
okay with that,
Nebraska because
Yeah.
they have Corn Hub.
I had it postulated to me. Why would you download porn? It's 2024. You can stream anything. Well, now you can't. Wild.
This
It's
is
almost
why
like there's a
you
use
need to
for
archive.
Impornium again.
Yeah, right.
I trust me, I do archive. You don't want to see the folder on my NAS. It is scary.
Shout out to all you data hoarders out there. I hope you got
Listen.
your favorite stars saved.
So
I'm
hold
just
on.
gonna say floppy disks full of JPEGs back in the day.
Yeah,
Would-
you
would-
need to
maybe
you need
quite a bit of
to
money in
load
middle
them
school and
upside
high
down.
school.
gotta
that needs
gotta
to
load
be
them
the
up
next
upside
shit
down.
coin. Cornium.
So on December 5th, 2024, a root cause into a remote support SaaS issue identified an API key for remote support SaaS has been compromised thanks to Dataplex talking about the Beyond Trust. So essentially step one was ripping the API key out and getting access there. And then once you have that level of access, it was only protected by 1111 as a password. And then Beyond Trust and all the customers protected by it, which is one of those FedRAMP recognized solutions. So if you're bored and looking to do some bug bounty work, maybe look at all the other solutions that are on the FedRAMP list and cross-correlate that with HackerOne and Integrity and see if you can go help out and secure that shit before they pop the next thing.
Yep. Kick out. SaaS is software as a service, by the way.
SaaS.
Yeah.
It's very sassy.
So part of this, right? I don't think we have the full story here yet, and I don't think they've contained the breach entirely yet, right? And they're still doing essentially analysis on the blast. But so they, as a result of this, right, in this article, in this Bleeping Computer, but it says that they discovered 2 RCEs, right, in their remote support and privileged remote access products. And the second issue is a medium severity with the same, allowing attackers with admin privileges to inject commands and upload malicious files. So you're telling me that as a security provider in FedRAMP, you have 2 like critical vulnerabilities that you discover after a breach of a 1111 password. No confidence.
That's
right?
not even a
No
breach.
confidence. I know.
That's not even a lucky guess.
So, and they also don't say how the API key is compromised here, right? So that's the other interesting part: is which came first, the remote, the RCE, or the, did they compromise a technician, right? Yeah. So it's just very interesting to see the lack of focus, I guess, right? And I'm gonna with this kind of, how is this not found first, right? By good actors, I'll say.
I think they forgot to buy more fucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have had something to do with defunding CISA to a large degree this year, so that when there's an entire giant backlog of CVEs that couldn't get approved. It wasn't just CISA; it was the NVD, National Vulnerability Database, or whatever the hell it is.
That is
And,
so juicy.
Yeah, but
Yep.
I mean, I think that's being DOSed basically, right? Like it makes sense to denial of service that, so that it takes too long to go through that as a source.
Well, me and everybody else I know has a copy, and we can filter through it.
Oh, absolutely. But how many of
Yeah,
those?
right.
I mean, my alerts change on the by the hour depending on who's saying what about what's CVE.
So it looks like the company did not describe either flaw as actively exploited in the advisories, yet CISA added CVE 2024-12356 command injection vulnerability to its KEV on Thursday. Beyond Trust has not acknowledged a direct link between that attack and the CVE, which has a 9.8.
Probably because that was used to breach the treasury, and CISA cannot notify Beyond Trust due to clearance issues.
Mm-hmm.
So they haven't actually been officially notified that it's been breached.
Imagine if Snowden had actually finished building that system to let them actually like notify each other instead of just taking all the data and going to Russia. So this particular CVE is in the KEV. The KEV is the Known Exploitables Vulnerabilities Catalog for those of you who don't have to run in threat intel briefing every week and mention all the bullshit that's in there every week. And it also takes advantage of the Common Web Exploitation, CWE 77, from OWASP, which is improper neutralization of special elements used in command injection.
SQL injection, guys, come on. Not SQL, but just validate your input, folks.
77. It's input validation at the end of the day, not neutralizing special elements in a. So this is a nice little diagram of how this works, right? We have input data that is interpreted as a command. Think log4j, right? We got special elements. You got input data. You got the command, special elements. You are supposed to not ever take what is put in input data and just move it here where it's going to get executed. You're always supposed to sanitize that first so that anything that's not supposed to be in there doesn't get passed along.
This is how people get pregnant. Is all I'm
Yep.
Wow.
Well,
This is how baby websites are.
You can either wrap it up or you can suffer the consequences.
Yeah, this
You
is
can't pull
how
out.
BAST is made. I mean, bullshit as a service.
Dual authenticated, the condom pull-out method.
Yeah.
So
Don't
the
ask
dual
me.
authentication part is asking the parents for permission.
Well,
No, that's the triple layer. That's the who you ask.
We'll defeat command injection at the exact same second we defeat venereal diseases.
So
Nice.
after obtaining the API key, the attackers could then reset passwords for local application accounts, gain privileges to customer systems, and access and compromise multiple customer instances. What instances were that? You may ask. Well,
the Treasury
that
Department.
is the Treasury Department for one.
Yep.
Maybe we should just get rid of the Treasury Department and the IRS, and then we'll be fine.
Hey, I'm here for that.
Yeah, I'm here for that. But don't let them hear me
we'll
say
get
that
behind
because
that
they'll
one,
kill
sure.
me in my sleep.
The IRS is the one place they're not going to attack because they want to collect their money back.
Did you hear the IRS actually had a major budget cut this year too? So my buddy Brian works over at the IRS. He's one of their big tech guys over there, and apparently they've had yet another staffing cut to their tech department, and have had to make do with what they've got, and don't have money to renew a bunch of the tools that they need for next year, including things like their endpoint detection system. Brian, forgive me for blabbing, but I mean that's a big fucking deal, and you shouldn't have told me. Anyway,
so for legal reasons, his name's not Brian. Names have been changed.
His name's not Brian to begin with, but I'm calling him Brian.
All right.
It's
Brian
Brian.
is actually part of his handle, but I regret.
Second off,
Second,
nobody's saying to attack the Fed. Don't do that.
But
yeah, we're definitely not suggesting that. In fact, we're suggesting
I am.
I
will.
alive.
Remember what happened in Mr. Robot when he deleted all the debt? It was chaos. Chaos.
What the chaos?
We wouldn't
Absolutely
want
was chaos. Yeah.
Did we start this cast talking
you're
about
interested-
being chaotic?
Yeah, go get a job. Go get a civil servant job and get in this, on the ground floor of your shit's fucked. You work for a broke organization, and you're going to have to learn on the job.
The phrase of the day is guerrilla warfare. Is what
Byte Federal is a
Tie it back
Bitcoin ATM firm, right? They put out these Bitcoin ATMs that you're going to see at your local bodega, if you're in a state that has those, these fucking things are not as secure as people think. I actually was fortunate enough to be allowed to do a live pen test on stage of one of these at the event Nathan Hawk put on, and this shit, the one that I got, I can't talk too much in depth, but be really careful about the information you give to these machines. A lot of them are going to ask for your ID and other documents, and that's exactly what got breached in these attacks. They store a lot of this shit locally. So if you're uploading your ID, it's going to sit on this fucking hard drive on this machine forever until it gets breached by somebody. Nice. Even though it uploads a copy to the cloud, a lot of them only have garbage collection routines that run when remoted into when there's an issue. There are a lot of other ATM issues with these. They are running a lot of the times x86 hardware under the hood and things like Windows 10 and embedded. Sometimes embedded, sometimes just regular Windows 10 Home Edition. And they're running kiosk software on top of that that's supposed to not make it so that you can break out. But if you're able to identify the specific kiosk software that's running and maybe ask for a demo of it, they're going to also send you the key escape sequence that can be injected into this if there were, say, a keyboard attached. Now, obviously, these do not have USB ports that can easily be accessed. However, within the touchscreen, there's another sequence that can be hit that would bring up a keyboard. Also, if you are scanning certain pieces of data like QR codes, it is input injection kind of shit that can happen where you can scan a QR code and that QR code can be the thing to bring up the keyboard. And then from the on-screen keyboard, you can then enter the command sequence to exit the kiosk mode. So
hold on. Barcode brought up a keyboard.
QR code specifically can bring up the keyboard.
Okay,
so
interesting.
The QR code is read in as input with the way these work. So it's just like typing something on a keyboard when you scan a QR code in, right? So if the QR code that you scan in has the sequence that is for bringing up the on-screen keyboard in Windows, kind of like a Ducky script would do, now you've got an on-screen keyboard. And from there, you can enter the commands that would break it out of kiosk mode right on the terminal without having to plug anything via USB.
That's fantastic.
And a lot of these also don't have
all the billboards in Vegas.
encrypted hard drives. They're running essentially regular consumer grade hardware without encryption on the hard disk. The one that I was lucky enough to pen test didn't have all of these issues, but maybe had some of them, and I can't specifically say which ones. But seriously, like, be careful with those things, man. Like, you're uploading your ID. It's bad enough, you know, you don't want the government in your business. Use like whatever the replacement for local Bitcoins is. Also, local Bitcoins got popped like 8 times. So just be careful with your data out there, especially if you're involved in the crypto scene. That's what the podcast was initially going to be about, bridging the crypto gap, but we got far from that.
Just be careful with your data regardless, man.
Do those ATMs
stolen? Just
do those ATMs So do those ATMs allow you to like create a wallet and stuff, like with your ID, where it can scan it and verify you at a anything like that?
You have to have essentially a wallet already on your device. It can be on any wallet app that you want. It doesn't have to be like theirs. And usually it takes about 45 minutes, in my opinion, for a lot of these transactions to clear if you're using regular Bitcoin. If you're using Lightning,
up to a week.
But I've never seen it take that long unless you're paying an incredibly low transaction fee. But like the Bitcoin ATMs, generally it's going to take 45 minutes after you do your transaction before you can then come and get your money if you are trading in Bitcoin. And if you're buying Bitcoin, the VIG on these things is like 30% above market. So you're paying a lot more than you would on like a DEX. So just use a decentralized exchange and maybe stay away from Bitcoin at this point and use some of the other coins that are more privacy focused, like say
Monero.
Thank you. Maybe Pirate Coin too. Give a shout out to my friends over at Komodo who run their infrastructure and also gave me money for things in the past.
All right, guys.
Here.
We're going to be sledgeless for a minute. I got to pee.
Sledgeless. We cannot be sledgeless.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Back to the Beyond Trust hack here. So we do have two exploits, one medium and one critical. I wonder if they might have been chained together in some way. So this other one,
Yes, it looks like it. I mean, it just the timing is off, right? Like, why would you, if you didn't discover this before? And it appears that one of them was previously known but not fixed. So allowing attackers with admin privileges to inject commands. Yeah, so basically you're able to. So if you're an admin on that system, right, you cannot necessarily leverage the connections that other people make through it that you're setting up. I believe this allowed you to bypass that boundary, right? So you can essentially become a user of the connections and credential system, or potentially inject commands into other people's sessions.
Damn. This is why you should just use Rust Desk and set up your own relay.
I have the same problem with Rust that I have with all the other things that are coming out, that there's no supply chain security there, right? We still don't have a good way to verify original source and provenance at scale. So Rust provides better runtime for your malware that's injected in your, typo squatted package system.
Yeah, Lambda asked about Piratecoin. That's R. So I used to see Piratecoin at a lot of the Vegas things that I'd go to. Oftentimes they had booth babes and more money than they should for being able to push a crypto coin. It seemed like they had quite a budget back then, but it seemed like it was bankrolled by one of their early investors. Piratecoin is supposed to be another one of those Monero-like coins. I haven't dug that much into how secure it actually is, honestly. I just know that Komodo has been involved with that for a while, helping with infrastructure and stuff. And Komodo is actually pretty good in terms of being like one of those companies that has sponsored people for like trying to do infosec stuff in the crypto space and make sure all those people don't get hacked. So shout out to those guys over there, and Jason specifically, who has personally given me money for like putting on security talks and conferences. So good bunch of people at Komodo. And I know that Piratecoin is like not officially one of their projects, but they do run a lot of that infrastructure, I believe. I think I'm supposed to know that even if I hadn't worked with them in the past. Full disclosure, I did maybe do some pen test type work for them. Okay.
So Dataplex, while I was in the bathroom, I heard him say something about supply chain stuff. And we were kind of talking about that on another episode regarding that CrowdStrike attack.
Right.
So like, how do you maintain everything when it's built off of a bunch of little other things like
software bill of materials is the official way you're supposed to be addressing it, but that seems like it's a failed initiative at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot of people pointing, basically saying that's too much to maintain. It's great that you have your dossier of crap that is broken, right? But if you can't act on it effectively, it doesn't matter.
No, then you got this little tiny library and everything's standing on it, and then
yeah, I'm actually gonna go big here and say CISA is kind of screwing up, putting out the advisory that people should move away from like C and C++ into more memory safe languages, because yes, those are you have those issues, right? But they're known issues. The languages right now, sure, they have better concurrency. They have more modern paradigms, right? But your supply chain is wet noodles, right? Straight from China. So Rust, Python, Node, right? Go. Finding one that has actually established like a secure supply chain first and then built their framework on top of that. I don't think it exists.
And we even see like what looks like a secure environment with say Node.js, right? And an app is like built securely. It's following all the guidelines that OWASP would scan. You say you scan it, it looks good. The second they maybe take a deeper look at that source code, what a lot of these bad actors are doing is they're looking for package names of dependencies that are going to get installed with things like the package managers for these languages. And what they'll do is they'll register a malicious library with the same name as an internal dev name for a library that gets pulled in during compilation but isn't publicly available. And then when they go to recompile that, if that doesn't exist in their environment, it pulls down the malicious like NPM package, for instance, that is spelled exactly the same, and then incorporates that into the source code
Yep.
Remember
seen
the
that.
SSH vulnerability, very similar, except that was intentional. This is more unintentional. Like SSH was an upstream package where the what was it called? Lib something, LZMA, I think. Lib LZMA was compromised by
XZ.
XZ, thank you.
Yep.
A dev who had been volunteering his time for over a year to the project and had gained credibility before, if you look at the source code at compile time, essentially modified just one line of code or maybe two that instead pulled in a repo he was hosting that backdoored the compression library that was then later incorporated into SSH. And it's very much like that XKCD comic where it's all modern infrastructure and that one block and it's some dependency maintained thanklessly by somebody in their free time. And it's scary, but it is the reality of how shit is right now.
So you just gave me an idea. So what happens if people are dependent on their repositories, their package managers, and all it's pulling down is something that's outdated, and some of that outdated stuff has vulnerabilities in it? Even if it's known or not, it's not updated, and they're still using it.
Easy.
It might not be intentionally malicious,
Easy
but
clap.
I'm doing this intentionally, Dataplex, just to bust your balls.
No, I know.
Well, that's what happens with Kali, man. Those guys, they have all those broken packages in the latest one. I don't get it.
Because
What's up
you know
with
what?
that?
But here's my okay. You ready for this? You got 8 dudes maintaining an operating system for a bunch of professional people who should be responsible for their own tool set. Don't go take a BB gun and into a battlefield, man. That's stupid, right?
we're not dissing Cali. We just had
I'm not.
a
Yeah,
rough
I
go
mean, it's a
with
great
it.
tool, and I love it. And I've been there since Backtrack, right? But yeah, if you're doing professional pen testing and you're like, dang, I can't do my job because I can't get the Kali distro, you're doing it wrong, right?
The conversation I wanted to have with that is, if we were to build our own box, what tools would we add onto it instead of having a million that we're not going to use?
We should just fork the pen test framework from TrustedSec and put just the tools that we use for pen testing on like a Windows environment, like NetExec, Responder,
No
Pretender.
Windows.
Listen,
The
yeah.
updated NetExec
Okay,
with
here's
the time
here's
roasting.
here's my current tool set, right? Terminal, curl, 3 cloud SDKs, right? So gCloud, AWS CLI, and Azure CLI. You can throw a scripting language on there. I don't really care which one, PowerShell, Python, right? Whatever. That's kind of it right now. Shit's so messed up that like from there,
You got to
if
use
you're
a
doing
Python
anything,
virtual environment for every tool
Yeah.
separately, because
Okay, so if you-
otherwise your Python breaks and then you can't do shit.
if you're
Or
doing
God
anything
forbid you put
more advanced than that, yeah. Sorry,
a
but
repository in apt in the sources.list that shouldn't be there, like maybe your VPN, and then the GCC version breaks and the whole freaking OS needs to be reinstalled to work.
To be fair, Pimp My Cali worked in 23 up to 23.4.
I mean, but you're gonna walk down the same route as Gentoo and like recompiling everything from scratch and then screwing yourself on drivers and things like that. It just is my point, I guess, right? You pointed to some devices earlier. Like if you're doing anything that's real, like 0-day or RC exploitation, you're probably putting that on a thumb drive, and it's already a custom built tool, right? You've gone and done your recon, and you know what you're attacking specifically. Everything else, I think, is just low hanging fruit, honestly.
I agree.
So,
And I really do appreciate what you guys did with Kali. I especially like the user interface. I just like busting balls when I can, because who else am I going to pick on?
I want to go back to the package management thing, because I pulled up an npm package.json, and I'm thinking anything that has regex in it is essentially user input,
Right.
exploitable.
So
So
I can give a specific example of what we ran into. There's this fairly new attack that came out called time roasting, and NetExec has it as of, I don't know, almost a year ago. And we're trying to update it through the Kali repos, and it wouldn't update that. So we had to go compile it ourselves, and then it worked.
And there's also the issue, if you're running an operating system designed for pen testing and you're sending a jump box out like to a client network, a lot of client networks are going to be configured to look for apt updates, and then that's going to burn you right away as soon as you go to update. It's even in the ET open rule set. If you're using Security Onion, the second you go to update Kali, it generates an alert. So either use your own Kali repos, like run your own shit, or if you're relying on like the open source one, like you got to run it over a VPN, and hopefully the VPN doesn't get caught when you're doing your updates. But what I was trying to say is essentially if the OS is meant to be run on site and it's supposed to have all your tools that you're going to need to do an engagement, if you then need to update your tools to work once you're there and the box is there, then you can easily get burnt while updating your tools if you're trying to be stealthy and do like lolbass and lolbins and not like
So-
set off alarms.
I had that conversation with a buddy of mine because he also sends jump boxes out to clients, and I asked him what he installs on his box before he sends it out, and he said nothing, just Debian. And I was like, what do you mean? Because I experienced, well, me and you, Frank, Havoc, experienced they were blocking specific GitHub repos at
Well,
their
that was
IDS
their
level.
SSL inspection shit that
Yep.
was going on. Essentially, they were doing TLS inspection, which not every company does, but every company who's big enough probably should have a device offloading that and checking what's actually going on there. And I actually like that they do that. Honestly, as somebody who does Purple Team, you know, when I'm a defender, I want to be able to crack open SSL and see where people are going and what they're doing, especially when you have when you have RS Mudge's tool. What's it called? Cobalt Strike.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How did I forget the name of it? It's right here. Cobalt Strike with the malleable C2 profiles that are proxying traffic through legitimate ad networks and other things and disguising it very well. Like you still want to be able to crack that open. And I shouldn't have to rely on like as a defender, a tool like what John Strand put out to find beacon shells, Rita, and like grab a giant PCAP and run it through analysis to be able to determine my sim should do that natively. So like not a lot of sims do. Like a lot of companies, what they're using is off the shelf shit like Alien Vault or like Logarithm or whatever the sim tool of the week is. Guards uses their own proprietary bullshit.
Like,
and they're growing
I
pretty
assume
quick.
they're using Bro on the back end.
Zeke, Bro,
Yeah.
Snort, all this shit is still there. But like, if you can crack open the inspect the packets essentially a bit deeper with SSL TLS. I know I say SSL TLS, and I know it's TLS for a long time, not SSL, but we still call it SSL for some reason. Like if you
Sometimes
can
you can force it to downgrade.
you can do a downgrade attack, right? You know these fucking devices. My
Say
brother's
your name,
company.
SSL. Say it.
So no, dude, there's
Teonoman Square. No.
what is these things called? Hold on, let me grab one.
SSL or it
fuckers-
puts the lotion on the skin.
Yeah.
I was helping my brother troubleshoot something that made no sense to him. So this is like Cato Network's edge device, right? Think of it as like a little shitty router that's got like an always on VPN connection. And in that VPN, they're looking for all the bad things that could be going over the network. And he's selling this shit now for them. And he's like, what I find weird is we don't necessarily have like our own OSPF or EIGRP routing shit going on, but things are getting through this faster like to far away places than they are on the base network connection. And we're not doing anything fancy. And we were troubleshooting that. And it turns out that these are doing a TLS downgrade and it does it on the fly. So with that TLS downgrade, you have less overhead and it actually gets to places faster. And that was like, what the fuck? That was unexpected. Like, what?
Hey, everybody, I'm gonna leave my door open tonight.
I'm only gonna lock the handle, not the deadbolt.
No, man. Supply chain attacks, right? We were
Yeah.
covering that a little bit. Those were
I
big
was yelling
this year,
about
man.
CISA
Like
giving
CISA.
bad advice.
C++, right? All the shit that AI is that's out there now. What do you think CUDA requires you to code in? C++. You can't code CUDA programs, the stuff that you're essentially going to be training all these AI models on. Even if you're using PyTorch and all these Python-based frameworks that are out there, under the hood, the actual software that's running on the GPUs to interpret that and like run within their own little AI virtual machine type environment to execute your code if you're running Hashcat or if you're training an AI model or if you're even playing a video game, that's all C++. It's like it's embedded into the shit. It is probably one of the most popular programming languages out there for over 30 years. And
I mean, it's what other languages are built on. And yeah.
What do you think? Like your Python is built from? It's like Yeah, you could say the linker and all that. It's assembly under the hood, but so is everything else if you really get low level enough. But C++ is used to compile like the Java shit that you're running under the hood. It's like Java itself is built with C++. Other languages like Rust are built with C++. So to say you can't run anything that's built with C++ is like, okay, I guess I can't have a computer then. You know, it was bad advice. I
Basically.
agree with you. I forgive the rant, but it was one of the
No, I
dumbest
think
things they put out there.
if you're going to focus on something, it should be on something like IR and detection, right? Like be able to respond, contain, and remediate and recover, rather than tell everybody go throw away the last 60 years of code that we've written, right? That's dumb. It's not a good move, especially when I think that the higher level languages invite people to be right. It's a layer of abstraction, and it means that they don't have to know as much information about the lower layer levels. And I think that's leading to a lot of this. People who don't understand what they're standing on are going to poorly design their stuff. So this is where you see, people putting insensitive information in JSON, JavaScript in web pages because you can't see it. Well, you haven't walked down the OSI layer enough, right? So I think there's just better things for them to be telling people to do rather than throwing out all the experience and right capability we have with those
They can
languages.
at least say something like gradually try to, I don't even know if there is an alternative, but maybe find a better solution, but not all at once. Like maybe eventually
SDLC?
evolve into something else.
One of the platforms that's out there for learning pen testing, and it's not Have I Been Pwned, but something very much like that. Not Have I Been Pwned, sorry, that's a completely
Try
different
hack
website. I
the
meant
box.
Try hack
Yeah,
the
you
box, try
have
hack
to
me, one of
hack
these,
me.
right? One of these that was out there for quite a while had essentially the page where you would put your findings in, and then it would verify the key that would be like sitting in a text file under the admin directory on Windows
Like a
boxes, for
CTF.
instance, right? Your CTF, it's very CTF style, right? And you would
Capture the flag.
you're popping your flags in to put it lightly. And the program that they were running that on, the software essentially, it was secure if you had it wrapped in TLS, but if you were to run burp and decrypt parts of it that you're not supposed to be able to see, all the flags were viewable within these little linked JavaScript pieces of code where it would go to do the actual verification and very easily reversed. And some people took advantage of
I
that.
did not hear about that. Interesting.
Oh yeah.
To then take the not only the keys but like write-ups that were apparently also on that same machine that had been saved for whatever the fuck reason on the same box, and then they were selling that on like what's the name of that fucking place?
Breach Forum?
No, well, Breach Forum would be a good guess.
I think
but
you're
this
talking about
was
hack forums.
not hack forums or breach forums. This was the IAB marketplace that starts with an M that I'm forgetting the name of, that you have to solve like calculus to get into.
Ooh, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Magbo marketplace, right? So if you were to like solve their bullshit calculus thing and get into their marketplace and give them $50 so that you can actually see the listings, all the listings for like 2 months were nothing but like all the boxes from this particular platform that I'm not going to mention, their write-ups and the keys, and they didn't even know about it until somebody who was not me essentially told them about it. But it's like, this is the shit web devs who are even taught secure coding practices fuck up. So like what do we have in terms of like an edge device that's going to be sitting on your network, like a Palo Alto Pan OS device, for instance, if you got a lot of money, like years ago.
Well, which incidentally just hit CISOs, Kev, as well.
This comes down to, you can have the silver bullet on your network, but it comes down to the person operating it and configuring it.
Years ago, Kelly Lum, rest in peace, gave a great talk at SummerCon, New York, called Out of the Kitchen and Into the Fire, where she took essentially the web-facing components of popular firewalls, routers, and edge devices, and showed that a bunch of them have things like command injection vulnerabilities. They have stupid auth bypass issues, and like this kind of shit is still happening, and that was like 10 years ago she gave this talk now. And if you're going to put out an embedded device you're going to sell to people, whether it's a router for your house, a Soho device, or ISPs who buy the cheapest fucking cable modem combos that they can find online and keep the default software on them from China, and then wonder how the entire ISP gets breached. It's like, think about it. I mean, at least code the part that's going to be internet facing to be as secure as possible, and don't test it a bit before you release it. You know?
Okay, so I'm gonna challenge this, and it's gonna sound absolutely anti-security for a moment. Bear with me, okay?
Hashtag anti-sec.
Yeah. I'm gonna drop the digital sovereignty thing again, right? Why are Russian and Chinese and North Koreans allowed to step into an American business or home, fuck with everybody and everything in there, be like, thanks guys, I'll be back next month, and just walk on out of here? That's absolutely absurd, right? There's nothing else in society where we would accept that type of a behavior. And I'm going to reverse it and say that engineering got way out of control, and is because of the efficiencies it affords, right? People still burn their house down, right? Every year gets cold, somebody's going to bring us, a stove inside or something, and either gas themselves to death or
bad timing.
All right.
10 out of 10 timing, never change Havoc.
Too loud.
That's what I thought you said.
I killed it.
That's how YTC rolls in. Fire smoke detectors, right? Like, why aren't there better ways to translate the risk and reward of this stuff for normal people? It's the best way I could say it.
So to address your sovereignty point, when you say these other countries can just come in, I assume you're talking about like our hardware manufacturers. Is that what you're saying? Or
no, if a literal like state-sponsored troop of Chinese soldiers rolled into New York and was like, we're gonna stop by the bank, visit the vault, right? Go maybe steal some identity from your grandmother's over here at the nursing home, and then fuck up this hotel. And thanks, it's been great, and we'll be back, right?
So,
they get back on their plane and they fly off.
Right. So without the anecdotes, are you talking
place.
about like IP spaces, or what are you talking about?
I don't know, right? That's it's not. We sold out sovereignty for growth, and now we're paying for that, and we need to understand what that looks like for America, because to this point we've relied on physical sovereignty, right? The oceans and the mountain ranges that we have. It's literally impossible to invade this country unless it's a psyops, right? Yeah. So
if one other thing, real quick. As a former firefighter, or at least volunteer firefighter, smoke alarms, right? There's two different general types. There's these ionization ones, and there are these ones that are like photoelectric, that employ this light beam and sensor to detect particles.
lasers.
Fucking lasers, right? The ionization ones, they have americanium 241 in there, like a radioactive element between two little electrical plates. They're really like the best smoke alarms that you can get, because they'll detect like a fast burning fire, a slow fire from like liquid or wood, or like any kind of smoke and shit that shouldn't be there. Whereas these photoelectric ones are not as good. They'll only detect like a slow burning, smoldering fire, or like a fire that's from like furniture burning and shit. Yet NFC, the National Fire Code, doesn't say which type you have to have in which place, leading to a lot of companies buying the cheaper ones and ending up not catching a fire until it's too late. And I just wanted to bring that up as a interesting side note, and that's all.
Extrapolation question for you, Havoc. What's the difference between one that can and cannot pick up cigarette smoke?
A piece of tape.
I was gonna say the one that actually has batteries in it.
Yeah, removing the battery.
That's why a lot of them are hardwired in, and they actually have in your lease for some apartments. It says that if you disconnect the hardwired smoke alarm, even if you replace it with a battery operating one, you're in violation of your lease, and they don't have to rent to you again.
They don't need to know that.
Man, I lived in an apartment complex a couple years ago that we knew when new neighbors showed up because they would cook for the first time, and the smoke alarm literally sat right above the oven basically, and it was like smoke alarm would go off, they'd be yelling, and we'd be like, oh, we need to go visit the new neighbors, right?
Hey, a good
So
sear on a steak.
everybody
if the smoke,
disconnected.
if the smoke alarm doesn't go off and you're searing a steak, you're doing it wrong.
They do. If you are going to smoke in your house and you're not supposed to, at least get a sploof. If you can't afford a sploof, they sell like actual things that are meant for this.
Well,
but
redneck spoofs. It ain't that hard.
Redneck sploof it. Fabric
Is
sheet.
that like the Hakutua coin or what? Like
I'm looking for sploof right now. I'm like, what the fuck are y'all talking about?
No, man, you turn the
get a
shower
bottle
on and
and
exhale
you
down the drain.
Dude,
An air
that's
filter
hot
to
boxing.
trap smoke in it. Okay,
That's
all right.
So like if you
Smoke
get
trap.
a bottle, like anything like this, preferably like a Poland Spring
God.
bottle, and you get like some fabric softener sheets, you pop them on top and you put
I've
something
seen
over it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
He's so
Yep.
goddamn cute.
That one's cute.
He's got a little face. Neat.
You know what
I
I
don't
used to
give a shit about
use
football, but I love
when
him.
I
He's cool.
smoked years ago was an actual soldering fan that I would just blow into that and it would capture it. It was like range hood shit. But they sell things like this online now, specifically for this purpose. Oh, speaking of buying shit online, I wanted to do a quick one. Whenever I see something interesting on, like, God forbid, I still go on Facebook, right? Once in a blue moon. But I see a cool ad on Facebook for some shit, I will Google reverse image search that shit rather than buy it from their ad. And oftentimes it's some shit they bought on like AliExpress for $5 and are selling for like 50,
Drop shipping.
and they drop ship it. So like, I am like, holy fuck, I could get this same crap for like the 10th of the price. And at some point, I gotta make some AI bullshit that looks at trends and sets up automatic drop shipping and sets up Facebook ads and fucking like make a fortune. But that
talk to me after the show. I may know some people that do that at warehouse scale.
Go fucking holler.
Oh boy.
Nice.
Are we gonna have to delete this episode now?
It's a ghost.
I mean, that's not illegal.
No, it's not.
It's not. Absolutely nothing illegal
That
about it.
is
He's just gonna get flooded with requests.
Whatever.
But seriously, like reverse image search the shit you see. If you see it on an ad and it looks like, even if it's a good price, I bet you'll find it a lot cheaper somewhere else. Sometimes even on Amazon. You know, like, not that I recommend giving Bezos your money, but still, you know.
The dirty secret is that if you see the product on Amazon from a company, their practices require that company to list their lowest price there. So go give them
that shit.
Yeah, go give them your money, because you're guaranteed that price will be available probably on their site as well. Because if they don't, Amazon will blacklist them. So
anybody ever do that Amazon arbitrage shit where you go to like Dollar Tree and clean them out of stuff that's $1?
Oh, I did that all the time.
Get it to them for like $8. Like
good money doing that back in college.
Leaders from your local stores and just ship them to Amazon to further kill your local economy.
It was great. I loved killing.
So what did you sell, Altkey?
Whatever the heck I was allowed to sell, because Amazon's actually pretty restrictive on what it allows you to arbitrage. But whatever that was on the okay to arbitrage list, that I found where I had at least a decent profit.
Yeah, there's also people who take advantage of the mispriced items and have like a Discord server where they share that shit. And then like you go like, you scan a barcode at the store and it's like, it says $10 even though it should be like $200, and then they just clean out stores and then resell that shit to Amazon. It's fun. I don't do any of it, but I'm aware of it.
It's a lot of fucking work. Like, the hustle is real.
Hey, if you got to make rent and it's between you.
It doesn't make rent anymore. It did though.
You know, it did for a while for people. I'm late to the game, you know. It's interesting that it was a thing for a while. Yeah, hardware, LoRa devices, right? LilyGo, was it LilyGo or Seed Studio? One of those two. Now is a $10 LoRa device. I bought like 4 of them. I'm still waiting for them to fucking get here.
Not this, but LilyGo.
Is that it?
No, it's not. LilyGo? This is the dongle we were talking about a couple weeks back.
Yeah, I have these are the old ones, right? These are ESP based. The ones that are NRF based, though, apparently have way better battery life if you're going to be setting up any kind of thing outside.
Yeah, LoRa is something that I'm working on.
Yeah, Laura, I think we got to set up a giant mesh-tastic network if $10 is now the barrier to entry, and like I'm saying, and they run off of I think 3 volts.
18650 will work fine.
They go to Dollar Tree and not rip off, but buy all of those like yard light bullshit things with the solar panel integrated that just charge a little NiCad like 1.5 volt 8 triple AA battery, and just rig those to freaking run these LoRa devices, and then just put little lights everywhere, or like take the lights out if you want to be stealthier. But like, there's definitely a way to make a giant mesh network now for fairly cheap, and I think we should.
Yes, we should. And I want to put the mesh and LoRa stuff into this, which, pardon, it's a little dirty. I got to clean the alcohol residue off of this.
Is that a...
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What is it? I can't tell from your...
I'm not sure what that is.
It's the Chatsubo badge. I've been printing a bunch of them.
Oh, man, you didn't send me any? What the fuck?
Yeah.
I only got 3 made, and then I ran out of money, so I got to print some more.
I'm not cool enough.
I will buy you some PLC if you print me some fucking shit.
It's not PLC. I'm doing it in resin. I'm the only one doing it in resin.
Definitely resin.
Oh, that's the live resin one? Ah, shit.
Yeah. They look so freaking cool when you put the LEDs in it.
I'll make my own.
Bring it to DEF CON. Bring your actual resin printer to DEF CON next year so we can print the badges.
That would be based.
Well, it takes almost a week to print that damn thing.
Yeah, they're not fast.
Nah.
Yeah, shoot that. If you're willing to shoot that file to me, Sledge, that would be pretty sick.
I mean, you could help too, but I've already got my other guys working on it.
Oh, I just want one.
Send it to Delchai too. I mean, he's got a regular 3D printer, but maybe he could print it too.
But I'm happy to throw some together for you if you would like. I don't care.
I want all the things, and I don't know how to ask without being like, please send me things.
But, not going into too much detail, but Frank, it is already public to you.
Well, I mean, true, but there's differences.
If somebody sends me the file, I'll make you one. Havoc.
I will ask if I'm allowed to give it to you, and if I can, I will send it to you.
Cool.
I don't know. What printer do you have, Strong?
The same one that you have.
Give it a shot. I've been having a problem since I put that magnetic thing on my plate. I can't get anything to fucking work.
I'm pretty sure I can
Occasionally,
figure it out.
Most of the time it's a razor, but sometimes it's a dildo.
There we go.
I am finding at my local thrift stores lately, a lot of people are dumping these Nighthawk routers from Asus and Netgear routers like that are like AC, and a lot of these are decent routers. I think it's because ISPs are now just giving away essentially the router with the cable modem as a combo unit.
The ones they don't support anymore.
Yeah, the ones they don't support in their shit, and that they then try to upsell you like some mesh bullshit for your house in order to get Wi-Fi to point A to point B.
God, I hate that shit.
But what I was noticing with these cheap ones, it's like $5 at a thrift store. A lot of them, if you look up on OpenWRT's compatibility list before you actually buy it and see that it's a supported device, I mean, there's a lot of cool shit you can do with one of these. When it's got OpenWRT, it's a Linux system under the hood. So, I mean, if you have a Raspberry Pi project, a lot of the same shit, if you want to run a Pi-hole, you can do on these. If you want to run all this stuff, and they're $5, and they're fucking Linux computers with like 4 gigs of RAM in them. It's cheaper than a Raspberry Pi. I don't know why people aren't just snatching them all off the shelves at this point. I do it when I see them, but I'm surprised there's still any there. Yeah.
So, on the topic of Pi-hole,
well,
does anybody... Okay.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. So, damn. Nope. Go ahead. Pi-hole.
So, speaking of Pi-hole, does anybody have a way to make Hulu work when you're running Pi-hole? Because they have a way to detect that.
Use AdGuard Home instead, and it can do more than that can, and it can also do upstream DNS over HTTPS with DOH as your primary, and so there would be no local DNS getting out. So, but then you could reserve that to your local network over regular DNS, so you could literally block the query before it gets there. When it comes to Hulu,
still, I don't know if that would work. Maybe I'll try it.
There's sometimes some tweaking if you're using like an Android TV box, a Roku, or something like that, because I don't know where the hell they're getting their ability to get past like very good block lists, but it seems on a computer at least, it's using regular DNS usually, and you can just bypass a lot of them. Like YouTube Premium started actually hosting shit on YouTube now for the ads rather than 8 ad networks, so that it's harder to block it. But when it comes to like Hulu, they're still using third-party ad networks to push those videos, so you can block them if you can identify them, and there are some good lists out there for that. Specifically,
That's the
AdGuard
thing,
Home.
though.
It runs the same hardware.
It seems like Hulu has a way to detect if you're blocking ads, because every time I tried, everything else worked, but not Hulu. It would throw an error message, and I can't remember what that message was.
Huh.
There's
Well-
different ways to solve that one, but I am not going into that on this show.
Yeah.
All right.
There's
I'm gonna
ways.
run back to my couple things here. Hardware projects.
Cough, cough, plex.
Yeah. Well, potential. Yeah, whatever. For educational purposes only. All right. So, distributed mesh network, right? Wireless. Talking about Meshtastic, right? Are we confident that we could deploy something like that that's not going to be used against us in the same way that these other, hacks are going on? It comes from this community, right? From the hacker community, but is it going to stay there, right? If it gains any kind of mass, and then have we even begun to look at the ways that could be exploited, both for identification and for?
It comes down to the security of all the tools that it's built upon.
Yep. So it's okay.
Basically,
yeah. I have been doing some attempting to do some hardware project. It has been extremely hard to. I'm a software guy, right? And so getting into the hardware aspect of that has been difficult. So that was something that just on the year, I realized that like getting into the hardware side of things, and a lot of people are because of the wireless stuff and RPIs and whatnot, with actually designing PCBs and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
that's
dude,
tough.
I even have my own vat of acid and stuff. I literally physically make my own PCBs. I don't just
so
send
we'll
it
be
out
talking
to a company.
after the show then. Okay. But no, that's it. So actually part of, I'm going to tie it all together. This concept of a smoke detector, a digital smoke detector that has like Pi-hole that you could deploy on old commodity hardware by flashing OpenWRT, right? Now, I wanted to put Kali in there because as a firefighter, I want a set of tools to come into the house and like use, right? If it's already owned, that shit's already in your network anyway. So give your defenders a decent fighting chance, but give a platform that bridges this gap between, normies, techies, and the threats that still uses like commodity hardware. And I think if we did that, the stuff with Meshtastic would take off a lot more because we'd be more confident and be able to connect all that together better.
The problem with the firefighter analogy is that would mean the firefighters have access. So that means a built-in backdoor somehow.
Right. So yes, don't take it literally, right? It's the concept of this device is everybody pretty much understands smoke detector, detect fire, right? But as we just heard from Havoc, like there's nuances even there that I today I learned, right? Look out for laser beams and cover with tape if you're, in your 20s.
Fucking lasers.
But so yeah, it's kind of an odd friction. Do we put more wireless devices that may enable greater scale spying and abuse of that human element? And then how do we enable people who want to do projects, hardware projects, to shorten that learning curve and the costs and the gaps, right? To put some people that have ideas out there that just are struggling with that initial bootstrapping.
Mm-hmm.
So Red Balloon, at least for enterprise, has a product that for your black box devices that are like your IoT shit, your edge devices, routers, IP phones, shit like that. They have this ABR thing that I don't quite understand how it works, but apparently it's able to inject itself into the operating system, whether it's RTOS or whatever else, get like low level and turn off services that aren't needed, and like actually harden a lot of these devices that are otherwise unhardenable. Ong is a guy I know from New York. When I used to live there, I used to come out to the SummerCon conference and talk about this shit, which is what kind of triggered this. But like his team does like that is their kind of niche, is like protecting embedded systems. So there are companies that do it, probably competitors to him as well. And like just getting that to a consumer level where there could be something on your device, like something sitting on your home network that would protect you from all this bullshit if you're not a millionaire who can afford to have your own SIM looking at all your traffic.
Right.
So
kind of think
it's
of it more
another
as like the fire
rootkit.
extinguisher, right? It is a smoke detector attached to a fire extinguisher, right? Maybe it sits under the sink and you don't plug it in because you don't want it to get owned. But if you have questions, maybe once a month you walk around just like you're supposed to test the batteries, right? And pop it on there, see what it says, pull it off, right? And go about your day.
So this begs the question: does it have internet access? Because this comes back down to that CrowdStrike conundrum. It's a rootkit. What happens if your rootkit gets
Rootkitted?
It is popped. That's the thing. We gotta understand, like, it's all compromised anyway. So if we're starting from assumed compromise, then I'm okay with the risk of that versus not having any kind of,
At least know you're fucked when you
basis.
get fucked.
Right.
It's what part of the CIA triangle is going to suffer the most: confidentiality, integrity, or accessibility. It's always going to be one that's getting fucked either way. Assumed breach, by the way, Dataflag's great point, is a really good way to look at things. I mean, you already should be segmenting your shit. And I was yelling at Sledge the other day for running stuff not in his DMZ that he should have been. But like you should really.
Hey, you told me to be noisy.
I'm a very different viewpoint on this. I lean into the pain. I do segment my stuff, right? But I think that basically society's got to feel enough hurt from this to change. Right, we're not doing it with regulation.
It's not like your average consumer is going to be setting up VLANs and guest Wi-Fi networks.
They should.
But they should. But I mean,
They should.
if it could be more accessible without the need to configure it like an IT guy does, I mean, you don't. Not everybody's got a network engineering background, right? So
despite ubiquity,
your average guy in the street start talking about VLANs, they're going to start glossing over and start going on their phone and scrolling on TikTok. It's like you got to make it accessible.
They blocked Pornhub, man. I don't. Yeah, VLANs are off limits now.
How dare they?
How dare you?
Oh God, I just realized how much security stuff that used to be kind of just, our kind of specialist thing is about to become common knowledge because of the Pornhub blocks.
Oh yeah.
Well, all the people who shill VPN products, they don't say it on their YouTube videos. They're like, watch Netflix from a country. No, Netflix is not going to be unblocked on most VPNs. But what will be is Pornhub.
I'd respect them so much more if they told you this VPN is for jerking it.
I mean, there are VPNs that
ShowMeAss.com. Hide my ass.
Show my
ass. There you go. I now have $1 million VPN idea.
Hurry up and copyright it, guys, before someone watching steals that.
Okay.
It actually stands for it's not that funny.
The Vag Penis Network.
There should be something for home users like that would replace the old router, right? Some kind of device that it doesn't have to be super great fucking hardware. Even something that's running now that Chrome has Manifest v3 and they're letting all the fucking shitty ads come back into your stuff. Like a regular ad blocking server that would be embedded into a router would not be that hard to do. Right. With pre-built block lists that update automatically, since you're not letting us fucking have control of our own browser plugins and making us load versions in the cloud that you won't let have more than X amount of entries. Like, okay, well, if you're going to take away our ability to do ad blocking from the most popular browser in the world, and maybe it needs to be a more accessible consumer-grade solution that can just be super cheap, so it's accessible to everybody and able to like filter out at least the malicious ads that will pop a lot of people. Like you would be surprised how many stupid small is the wrong way to put this. How many small and medium-sized businesses that don't have a dedicated IT team that might be using an MSP to watch over their infrastructure have no protection against your average user who everybody's probably got local admin anyway, goes out to the internet to look for their favorite program They go to download it, but instead of downloading it from the regular site, it's whoever paid for the most Google ads that now has the top entry. They click it, and yeah, they get their program, and they also get a shit ton of malware on their box at the same time. As
hey, listen, we were all told to just download WhatsApp and Signal by our government. Like it's screwed, right?
You know,
and I don't like that shuts down those right. That hurts our business, and that helps like Amazon become a monopoly, right? That's my problem with it.
Can we go back to securing personal networks for a second, like VLANs, making it easy for the consumer? I would highly recommend. Ubiquiti has this thing called the Dream Machine, and it's not rack mounted anymore. You can just set it on a counter like you would a normal ISP's router, and you can configure it in a nice GUI to do all sorts of really nice security things. And I bet you there's a market there that somebody could script out these configuration settings to just boom, you're instant secure. You've got a VLAN for your IoT stuff, your light bulb, your switches, your ring bell doorbell, your Wi-Fi, your guest Wi-Fi. They could probably script that out.
Yes, $300 device, and it's not even for sale anymore. But I'm saying is, if like, yeah, I'm looking at the webpage right now. I'll share it here.
It gets complicated actually, and this is something I've been getting more passionate about this year actually, and we're at 2:15, so I'll probably wrap with this. But I kind of stumbled on digital literacy. And then actually being able to walk somebody through, and I'll put this out there just because I would love to see people work on this. And I know there's people working on this in the space, right? But one of the things that is happening, right, is and why you get into trouble with stuff like this, right? Parents and children and abusers, right? It just immediately goes into this sticky, nasty like situation of, well, are you providing the opportunity for somebody at the home to hide their activities, right? Or are you enabling them to be safe? Okay, let's just get past that and say, if you assume breach, and we assume we don't want our society breached because we want people to have safety and security in their home, and we will hold them responsible for their personal actions there if that harms somebody else, right? Take that out of it, right? Giving and going to this whole porn thing, right? Like nowhere else would we allow a child into like a head shop or a porn shop, right, or a bar without ID. Got it, right? Where does that need to happen? And how do we enable parents, children, adolescents, right? That the transition from child to adulthood right now, and identity, data security, right? That's all education stuff. And I don't think until we have that common ground in education to say, as a parent, you do have options, right? Make a network for your children, and that network, right, represents like all of their devices. You have a network for work. You have a network for your, IoT stuff, your Ring doorbell, right? That's kind of like just a wizard or a walkthrough, but it needs to be supported by tools that are commonly understood and that we can, right, have those common conversations about.
They kind of do that with those tablets that you get with kids that are wrapped around the rubber and they can only access certain things.
Yeah, but those are sold by like Amazon and Microsoft, who have a vested interest not giving them the power to do anything or upselling security on those.
Sure, but I would say it's at least a step in the right direction.
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated topic, and it's actually what I'm going to be really kind of focused on in 2025. So,
that is a very good point. I just wanted to add to that. Like, if you're a parent, I really think it's irresponsible to just give your kid a tablet and like let them loose on the internet nowadays. Everything from the people who do like sexual exploitation of minors and tricking people to go across state lines and meet up with them, and to just like content that's just not age appropriate for people. It's like when I was a kid, my parents didn't let me on the internet. I had to find ways of stealing AOL with fake credit cards to get on the internet. It's like they thought I was just chilling. I was on the 800 number using Credit Master 4 and prefixes and getting my ass online. And like kids nowadays, if we want to have a better infrastructure, we want people to actually have like hackers in the future. All these people who've got their phones glued to their heads, and like they do not have an ability to focus for more than 5 seconds without scrolling through social media. Like, wait till your kid's old enough before introducing them to these things. I think like if your kid's determined enough, he's gonna get past anything you as a dumbass adult are gonna be able to set up anyway. So
That's not true. That's not true, man. My kid's never stolen my car, not once.
But did they download a car?
It comes down to like education and your ability to be responsible as a parent, right? Like you have to take that as an active role. Yeah, but right, assuming you're a responsible, doing the right thing parent, right, and you don't know shit about technology, or even if you do, right, that conversation is difficult. They go to school. What are they going to do, about their friends' devices and stuff?
It's like
states
when I was
are
at
trying to
school, we'd
legislate
hand
it.
out
They're
porn
like,
or-
you can't be on social media till you're 18. I don't think that's the right way to go about it either. Legislation is definitely not the answer.
Dude, when I was in school, I didn't have internet till I was 16. We would hand like CDs around.
89% of frisbees back in the early aughts were AOL discs.
Hell yeah. I listen. I made a mint putting that additional content on AOL discs and passing that around to people that didn't want it looking like what it was, right? So that was fun. Thank you for the discs, AOL. Appreciate you. It took a lot for me to get online too, right? And then when I got there, I found some pretty horrifying truth about the world and everything. So carry
I'm a
that
baby.
around.
I had the internet since I was 5. Y'all had to work for it. No.
I want the ability to okay, as a parent, right? You're going to get online. I'm not going to prevent my kid from having the same standing as other people in the world when they get there. I want to know what entertainers they're watching on, YouTube or whatever. Like, so a device that would sit there at home and be like, text a parent, right? You could set it up, say, hey, I want texts of like who my kid's going to see on WhatsApp or whatever, right? And that way you could just browse through there. There's different levels that you could take that, right? I want to block, or I want to
on your children and violate their privacy.
Yes, because you're a parent and you're responsible for their identity until they're 18. That's the thing.
How would you be able to see that? Because on a network level, you would see, hey, they access TikTok or whatever.
Well, you got to put spyware on their phone, obviously.
But would you be able to see what influencer they were looking at or what videos they were looking at? And
there's a lot of pixels out there, man.
Those?
A lot of pixels.
I guess that's one route to do it. I'm just thinking on a technical level, like,
yeah,
how would
let's
that
solve
work?
that, right?
There are apps
that's a valuable problem to solve.
There are apps that are abused oftentimes by people who are stalking their exes, but are designed for parents watching their children's phones that will put an innocuous app on the phone like that looks like a calculator or something, but it's actually the back door and allows the parents to essentially not only have like a full screen of like I can see everything going on the phone, but also archives like chats on WhatsApp and all that shit. So,
but I think that's spying, right? And that's very borderline abuse. I think this is. I want to put that out in the public, like, hey, as a parent, you have the right to manage your child's experience in the world. And
I think we're talking more about network hardware equipment, correct? Is that what we're talking about?
So you're going to want to be able to do TLS, deep packet inspection on consumer grade hardware, which is going to mean you're going to have to put a cert on everything at the end of the day. I have a whole package of AOL 9 discs somewhere I was trying to find real quick just to show off, but I don't know where they are. It's like thick like this. I think I might bring it to DEF CON and just toss them out.
Hey, there we go. We wear them as necklaces.
I've still got a cereal box with one taped to the front of it somewhere.
Chex Quest for the win. Chex Quest.
Best fucking game ever. Chex Quest, dude.
I don't even know what that is.
Yep.
Chex Quest.
Google it.
Was a spin-off of Doom, or a report of Doom based on the Chex cereal mascot. He had a gun and went around and shot. I can't fucking remember. But Chex Quest.
It was so awesome.
It was basically Doom reskinned as Chex.
Yeah, back when companies had balls and would let their mascot shoot people.
Mascot shot people.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
It's all right. It's okay.
All right. Dataplex gave us his New Year's resolution. What's everybody else's? And let's wrap up.
Oh, fuck. Do we have a New Year's?
I'm not going to go to a hospital after DEF CON this year.
There you go.
I've only had that happen
We'll
twice.
be there with you.
I'm going to become more unhinged and ridiculous.
Hell yeah.
We are leaning further into the chaotic neutral.
I'm going to say bigger fires, more money, and more certs.
Crouch Drunk
Hey,
is going
there
to
you
teach
go.
me how to blue team, which is only going to help me red team harder.
Yep.
Maybe I'll start following the 10 hack commandments.
I'll roll up on you at
You
some
talk
point.
too
Slide,
much
and
for
we'll
that.
make some
You'd break
fire
2
together.
of them havoc. Sorry, Crouch Drunk.
I
Do what?
got all right. So my actual ones, I would like to do at least a good size, like maybe not a main stage presentation, but I want to get out there and put my experience out there for more people. I've already hit 2, so being on the podcast, I'm 1 short of my goal for the year. So I wanted to do 3 podcasts or 3 presentations. On the 6th, I'll be throwing down some hotness on a SaaS vendor that rejected my bug bounty submission.
Nice.
So I'll drop that. That'll be fun.
I might be able to hook you up with something if you want.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and then just getting more involved in actually kind of everything's fucked, everything's stolen. So let's all go have a great time, be positive, and help people out.
Agreed. And if you ever want to like do one of your presentations here on the Iron Geek YouTube channel, we are friendly with Adrian, and we could just upload that shit for you, or
Call it a practice run.
Yeah, or even just like do it on one of the casts if you want to. We can just hand over control and I can mute everybody so nobody else can talk, and you can fucking put up your PowerPoint and go practice through it, which I'm going to be doing at some point for my Wild West Hacking Fest Mile High talk if I ever get around to finishing my PowerPoints on that.
Yeah.
There you go.
One of these days, I should redo my talk that I gave at Dragon Con.
Nice. Yeah. And don't use AI to write it, guys. This is that. Let's show people that you could actually like do good without relying on the machine.
I'm a pro. I write my slides on the fucking plane.
Wait, y'all actually write yours? I just get on stage, take 3 shots of Malort, and go for it.
Hell yeah. That is true.
Have a hair in your chest.
Oh, it will. You should see the recording from Freaknik if you don't believe me about finishing off a bottle of Malort while still giving myself.
How can you stomach Malort? It is so nasty.
I just noticed
buffer overflow.
So I just noticed something. Is CrowdStrong the only one that hasn't given a talk at a conference?
That is correct. I have not given a talk yet. That's on my list. You've pushed me to do it.
Let's go.
Let's see. It's been 2 years now. I'm looking at doing one. I made some really good friends at the conference that I went to earlier in August, and I'm going to try and put something together for those guys. If not this year, then next year. But I'm in really close with their security folks, so we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Crowd strong.
But it's about time to do the damn thing.
I'm gonna be there
really
just to like sit in the back with a shit-eating grin to try to make you laugh.
I will be the one handing you a bottle of Malort while you're still like mid-talk on stage.
Are you fuckers going to Boston the week after fucking DEF CON? Because I guess I am.
Y'all aren't even, DG. Like, I'm the one fucking with your laptop while you're up on stage. You can't come over and tell me no.
Dude, why is it not projecting? Oh, that was me.
Joke is on you. I'm bringing paper. Go fuck
the most evil fucking idea ever.
I'm loud enough. I don't need no microphone. I got
laser
this
pointer or
Guys,
some shit. Yeah.
You know the slide clickers to move your PowerPoint forward that have like a laser pointer on them?
Oh yeah.
We make a bunch of backdoored ones of those and give them out at conferences to people giving talks.
Oh,
have
my
it do a
God.
delay.
I'm going to say that has been done before. It's extremely successful and it's hilarious.
We add a delay to it and then have it do a ducky script that plays the Rickroll video just for the lulz.
Fantastic.
We don't want to actually be evil. But I mean, come on. How great would that be? Where it works, it advances your slides, and then random interval, like between 1 and 5 minutes, just does the Rickroll.
Mine would do 2 actions for whichever one you clicked. So you had to click twice and then like 2 forward, 1 back to get to the next slide. You couldn't go backward or forward. Yeah.
Jesus.
That's almost as bad as the people hijacking the mics with the stupid RTL SDR shit. Like they got the frequency and then just fuck with the mics live on the call.
Oh yeah, someone did that to me one year at Freaknik, so I just threw the mic on the ground and just started screaming at people.
There you go.
My voice carries. It's fine. I don't care.
Threw it on the ground. Yeah, there you go.
I threw it on the ground.
Mike throw.
Mic drop.
That's
Should have
2024.
threw that mic at that mic.
2024 recap.
I like it. Well,
Last thing, if I might.
last thing. Go ahead.
I just want to shout out to President Jimmy Carter, who passed away this week. Who, it doesn't matter if you cared about his politics or not or what he did. He was a fantastic human being and did a whole lot for humanitarian aid. And from that region, just want to shout him out. Rest in peace.
Pouring out to the homies.
Canal for
one out.
Do what?
Yo, that's a whole nother future podcast about presidents' legacies and like history.
That's outside the forte of what we.
Yeah, that's well.
It's not well. It's
beyond-
not because,
politics.
I'll absolutely bring it back. Right, like the if you go look at articles around the world, and this is what kind of annoys me, is that Jimmy Carter is kind of being remembered as the one that allowed China to become what it is currently. Right. So the world has not decided whether or not he was a good leader. He is an amazing person, an amazing example, and absolutely lived every day to support his community. And in all that, I am all for him. And I think people should do more studying. I think he also didn't understand history of the world as we couldn't back then, and made decisions that we were talking about a lot today.
Sure. But I would like to mention, or I would like to go back to what I said a moment ago. It makes no difference how you felt about him politically. Dude was based. As a human being, for humanitarian aid and all the things that he did, he was based. Can't
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Rest in peace, fam.
Yep, pouring out for the homies.
Pour one out.
Hey, that's fair.
Got us.
Yep.
Well, pretty much every president in his own right is a villain, but we won't get into that.
It has been a phenomenal year, everyone. I am thankful to have been part of this nonsense. I look forward to whatever nonsense we get into next year. Thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
Thank you for joining. It's been one fucking hell of a year for me. Things are looking up, though. A lot of good things have been happening, and I'm hopeful. So we'll see what happens.
Thanks for having me, y'all. Like, I never knew I was going to be like actually joining the podcast or anything, but glad y'all have me. And here's to a year of chaos and bullshit.
Yep.
I'll throw one out there. I went from being arrested at DEF CON to busting 100,000 vulnerabilities and dropping 6 O-days to this year. And I look forward to
wait, arrested at DEF CON?
Arrested at DEF CON? Are you one of the guys I heard about on the radio?
We'll talk about that when I do a presentation about it, because it ties back into
this is another.
Yeah, getting drug up off the street in this community, picking me back up and putting some hope back in my life. So that one is, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm glad you got some hackers on planet Earth back into your life.
Hell yeah.
So I just want to thank all of you for coming on to this podcast with me and making it what it is now and what it will be in the future. I really missed doing this with Adrian and Cameron and BSD Bandit and all the other people who used to come on here. It was literally my socialization for the week, because I do work like a dog, despite the fact that I joke around a lot. I am often very, very busy. I work multiple jobs trying to keep my head above water, just like a lot of us do here. So the fact that I have this to come to every week and enjoy some time with some really cool people, shoot the shit with people who kind of get me, it is invaluable to my mental health. And so I just want to thank all of you for both the weekly cast that we do and the participation in the group chats we have on Signal, and our little Discord server that nobody goes on to. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you all have great New Year's. And for those of you who are looking for employment, like Evelyn and Sledge, these are some very talented folks. If anybody out there who's listening is looking for somebody to perform either penetration testing or secure infrastructure design or pretty much anything under the sun when it comes to infosec, there's a lot of talented people out here who are looking for work. Sledge, I can personally vouch, really does know his shit when it comes to pen testing, as I've worked with them.
I
And
also
Alti really does know her shit when it comes to setting up infrastructure, and she's been helping us with that, and also doing website design and
Yeah, plug our
CrowdStrong.
website.
And I know he does good shit, even though I haven't worked with him in a professional capacity, as well as
break
DPX.
things.
He breaks things. I break things too. If I could pan around this room, you'd see about half the things are broken, but not in the way that you're describing. So I just want to say thank you all. I appreciate you, and also our viewers. You know,
we appreciate you too, man.
I'm surprised people tune into this still, and I'm happy that you do. Thank you.
Every
for
now and then I
all the
see 300 views, and I'm
stuff.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's very, very nice to know that people are
Making an
even
impact.
listening to this online, not just shouting into a void. I'd be shouting into a void anyway, but eventually it would shout back at me. So thank you all.
All right.
That's called BGP flapping, and we can talk about that offline.
Cheers, y'all.
Kinky.
Peace.
Kinky.
Cheers,
All right,
bitches.
hackers and cyber warriors, it's time to encrypt this episode and send it out into the digital ether. Thank you to Sledge, Delchi, CrowdStrong, and Altkey for another epic nerd out session. And a special thanks to our guests for joining us. And to all our listeners out there in the cyber trenches, patch fast, encrypt tight, lock down your ports, and leave no backdoor open. Hunt threats like it's open season. Keep your passwords long, your MFA enabled. Don't use SMS as a second factor. Keep your malware signatures up to date, your critical data backed up, and your network locked down like Fort Knox. Until our next PunFest, stay vigilant, stay curious, and above all, stay CounterSurveil. Whether you're pen testing networks or hardening your own defenses, remember, in the game of cybersecurity, you're either the hunter or the hunted. So sharpen those skills, mask those IPs, and we'll see you on the dark side of the net. This is CounterSurveil.
Crypto dreams and data streams. Listen close, it's closer than it seems. Break the chains, let knowledge spree. Decrypt the lies, set information free. Sneaky tracks the blockchain's veins. Knows the player's chains and gains. Rallies hard against the status quo. Spreads anarchy with every blow. Havoc, masters, breach and defend. Purple team tactics beginning to end. Builds C2, then unleashes hell. Stealthy ops, no trace, no tell. All key adapts, no challenge too tall. Overcomes the odds, conquers it all. Nothing she can't handle, no firewall too tough. Coding or cracking, she's always enough. CounterSurveil in my ear. Security we engineer. Learn the truth, don't disappear. CounterSurveil, we're right here. CrowdStrong sees it all, blocks every attack. Blue team fortress, got everyone's back. Protects the field where we love to play. Ensures we'll hack another day. Sledge tears through with red team might. Hammer systems in the dead of night. Popping shells left and right. Never backing down from the fight. Delphi's fortress, no breach, no slack. Takes no shit, defense is stacked. Runs the MSSP, a one-man crew. Goth DJ vibes with a comic view. Hackers with disabilities leading DEF CON. Blue team beast turning threats to gone. CounterSurveil in my ear. Security we engineer. Learn the truth, don't disappear. CounterSurveil, we're right here. Crypto dreams and data streams. Listen close, it's closer than it seems. Fix the flaws, clear out the fog. Protect the world, unleash the logs. Havoc breaches, defends the core. Sledge swings hard, systems hit the floor. Sneaky tracks, unmasking every scheme. Altkey rises, conquering the dream. CrowdStrong shields, unwavering might. Delchi stands tall, relentless fight. CounterSurveil, the hacker's creed. Together we rise, fulfilling the need.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Yeet.